Welcome to another episode of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week, joining us live from the UK, Gus. Joining us live from NY, Daniel Carpio, the Inscriber. Join us from the West Coast, Jacob Herrera, Francis and Joe from Ford Boxing. What's going on, ladies and gents?
Hey, how's it going, Mike? What's happening?
All right. After taking the week off, we're back. Catching up on boxing news, boxing matters from the last week, from the previous weekend as well as this past weekend. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Boxing Report, Pound for Pound Boxing Report, live YouTube show as well as podcast and blog, talking all things boxing. If you want to find more information about Pound for Pound Boxing Report, the place you want to go to is the blog page, P4PBoxingReport.wordpress.com is the link. We'll repeat that, P4PBoxingReport.wordpress.com. Go to the right of the blog page. You will find links to find us all over the interwebs, all over social media. Links to find us on Facebook, G+, YouTube, Tumblr, Twitter. Link to find the Pinterest board. Link to find the RSS feed if you want to subscribe there. Link to find us also on Stitcher Radio, Flipboard Magazine, SoundCloud, iTunes, as well as the email address, which is P4PBoxingRPT@gmail.com. Let me repeat that, P4PBoxingRPT@gmail.com if you want to email the show. And also leave a review on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. Tell us what we're doing right with the show and how can we improve with the show. Let's get this episode started. Going back, recapping what went down. I want to focus on the heavyweight division. Joseph Parker from New Zealand. Really a heavyweight that's not a lot of folks know about, but if you're really a hardcore head, if you're a geek like us, you've known about him for a while. Undefeated heavyweight, 24 years old, from New Zealand, like I mentioned. Fought an eliminator against Carlos Takam last Saturday, I believe it was, in Auckland. Parker winning by unanimous decision, 116-112 on 2 scorecards, I believe it was, and 115-113 on the third. It wasn't an easy time with Takam by Parker. He had to fight and fight hard, but he did what he had to do. The thing that I like about Parker, and I'll start ladies first, I'll go with you, Francis, from Ford Boxing. The thing I really like about Joseph Parker is, for a heavyweight, he is really skilled. He has very good uses of the jab. The combination punching on his part, the ability to go up and down on a guy with educated punches, as I like to call. He just doesn't throw punches just to throw them. He has a plan behind each shot that he throws, and he executes for the most part very well. Again, Takam, made him fight, but again, Parker did what he had to do. It may not have been the most aesthetically pleasing fight, back and forth, particularly during the second half. But Parker, he showed his chin because Takam landed some shots square on. Overall, I'll go to you, Francis. I like what I saw.
Yes, I liked what I saw too. I thought that Parker had wonderful usage of the jab throughout the fight, and the thing that I really liked about him was the ability to really stick the jab out there in Takam's face and change an angle. He was just almost too elusive for Takam to catch. In the beginning rounds, I thought Takam did a good job of tagging Parker with the straight jab. I thought that was kind of his bread and butter for the first few rounds, but he just started fading as the fight progressed. I thought Takam got sloppier as the fight progressed. In the beginning, I thought he did his best because he was at a distance, he was light on his feet, he was countering nicely with that jab, but he just got sloppy and wild with his punches, and his straight punches almost looked too wide. And when he was throwing hooks, I couldn't even tell if it was a hook or a jab because it was just, all of his punches looked sloppy and wide. Whereas Parker, I thought he did a great job of just staying relaxed, throwing the jab, exploding in round 8, especially with all of those straight punches. I thought he did a tremendous job of doing that. But hats off to Parker. I think he did a tremendous job. I don't think he'd be able to hold his own with Joshua just yet, because I think Joshua's timing is better and I think Joshua maintains a good distance and is more of a cautious fighter than Takam. Takam, I think, was just fighting for position inside as the fight kept going, and not really. It didn't seem like he had a strategy at all. It just seemed like he was just throwing whatever power punches he could throw, and then just getting lucky with the punches that he was throwing that were actually landing.
Francis touched on how he would do the prospect of Parker against Anthony Joshua. With this win, Parker is now the mandatory for Anthony Joshua. We'll touch on that later. I will go to Joe, and then Jacob, Daniel, and Gus. And your thoughts on the win by Parker? How did you feel he looked? What about him as a fighter are you impressed by? First Joe, and then Jacob, Daniel, and Gus.
I thought Parker's skill level was actually very impressive. I thought it was a good win for Parker. He's still a young guy, only 24 years old, and Takam is an established veteran who's a really good fighter, in my opinion. So I think that's a good win for Parker. Now, I think if you match him up with Anthony Joshua, I think there are weaknesses that Parker showed that Anthony Joshua could really exploit. And one of those things is that Joseph Parker seems to drop his hands a lot. and Parker took a good punch. But when Anthony Joshua hits you, I think that's a different type of punch. And one mistake like that, I think, could end a fight against Parker. So I think Parker's got to work on getting his hands up. I also think he's got to work on cardio, getting his endurance up, because he did seem to have times where he was running out of gas. And then he got a second win and a third win. And I thought he did a good job. But I think if he's going to get in there with Anthony Joshua or some of the other good heavyweights out there, he's going to have to work on his cardio and then work on keeping those hands up.
Jacob, Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, I have been following Parker for a little while. I wasn't as impressed with him because Joe mentioned a couple things that, and I thank you for tweeting out the link, Mike. That's how I ended up watching the fight.
Oh, no problem.
But I think I said back to you that a couple of things that concerned me about Parker was that he backed straight up with his chin, like wide in the open, and you know, he was getting caught with that right hand a lot. And I think, like Francis said, if Anthony Joshua lands one of those straight rights or something on him, I think it's a short night. But I mean, he has obvious skills. Joe touched on also another thing I noticed, which is his cardio. He seemed to get kind of tired and breathing out of his mouth early on. There was a round where he threw a very good combination and was, I think, trying to get Takam out of there. But Takam stood strong, and then, you know, he kind of gassed himself out a little bit or punched himself out. And, you know, it's a good win. I'd like to see Parker face a couple more opponents like this before an Anthony Joshua. And just so that, you know, we can know that he's ready and we don't, you know, he doesn't potentially get beat or knocked out and kind of ruin his career because he is young. But I mean, overall, I'd probably give him like a B-.
Daniel, and then Gus.
Everybody hit on some pretty good points when it came to Parker's defense. That's the main thing I noticed when looking at the fight. He did have his hands down a lot, and he let Takam land some right hands. That, yeah, like I said, I give credit to Parker's chin. A lot of fighters would have dropped from it, but this was his toughest fight for a reason. Like, he's used to knocking people out, and he couldn't knock Takam out. Like, you saw that flurry in the 8th round. It was like a 7 or 8 punch combination, and Takam stood there. But Takam really could have won this fight. He legitimately could have won this fight if he actually fought, especially in the second half for all 3 minutes of the round. He seemed to try to do the first 2 minutes, try to trap Parker into doing something bad, but then when he couldn't, then after the minute, then he came on. That's too late already. That's later. You already let Parker establish a jab. You already let Parker establish a tone. And ultimately, it's a good win. It's, unfortunately for Takam, that's probably his last shot at a title. And with Parker, if you put him against Anthony Joshua right now, part of me wants to agree with you guys that Joshua's right hand would just show up out of nowhere. But then I keep remembering the Dillian Whyte fight. I keep remembering the end of the second round.
The body shots.
Yep, the body, and that is Joseph Parker's specialty, the body shots. And we saw how winded Joshua was after Dillian Whyte handled him with those body shots in the second round. With somebody like Parker, who that's his meal ticket because of the length of his arms, and who's probably gonna have more time now, it could be interesting because now Parker actually has something over Anthony Joshua. Joseph Parker can say he actually went a full 12 rounds, where Joshua can't say that right now. So there may be stamina questions still with Joshua.
I will go to you, Gus. Open up your mic, please. Daniel mentioned some interesting things about the possibility of a Parker-Joseph fight. There's issues with stamina that we still don't know fully about Joshua, as well as what would happen if Parker, who's a very good body puncher for a heavyweight, what would happen if he was to find Anthony Joshua's midsection, which, as Daniel correctly noted, he was hurt by body shots in the Dillian Whyte fight, particularly in round number 2. So your analysis of Parker's win over Takam, as well as the prospect, your thoughts on a possible Parker-Anthony Joshua bout.
Yeah, the excellent points from the rest of the guys and a great breakdown from Francis as well. Now, Mike, this fight has ignited a considerable amount of debate from a lot of the sort of boxing podcasts and boxing analysts, specifically in the States, as it was really their first opportunity to have a good look at this prospect who Al Bernstein of Showtime and Max Kellerman of HBO have been talking about in a lot of the shows. Now, what people have got to realize is that, first of all, Joseph Parker's from New Zealand. I don't know why a lot of folks seem to think that he's Australian and the fight was from Australia.
Yeah, you're right. You're right how folks incorrectly keep saying he's from Australia when he's not. He's a Kiwi.
Yeah, absolutely, and trust me, folks over there won't be too happy with.
And they take great offense when you try to say that. When you try to suggest that they are Australian, they have great pride, cultural pride in that context.
Absolutely, and what people are going to realize with Joseph is that his development and has only come around for the last sort of 3 years. 3 years ago, his boxing acumen was nothing. He was just a raw kid who sort of walked into the gym. So he's transformed and developed considerably in the last 3 years specifically. And this was a massive step up in class against a battle-hardened, seasoned, almost a gatekeeper in Carlos Takam of France, who we've known has went toe-to-toe with former world heavyweight champions in Alexander Povetkin, who must have been on the juice of the way he was battling around.
And we will talk about Povetkin for sure.
Yeah. But in terms of the fight now, there were deficiencies with Parker, but a lot of them I feel are correctable, and a lot of folks are a little bit premature in almost dismissing his abilities after just viewing one opponent. And let's think about it. I mean, Carlos Takam is a lot better than what some of these even incumbent champions have on their resume. So it was a little bit difficult to just sort of sideline him. Yes, he was getting hit with a lot of overhand rights, and we know Takam was stalking him down. But if there's qualities that Joseph sort of exemplified, was his very, very fast hands and his combination punching. If I recall, in one of the punches, he reeled off like a 15 or 16 pound consecutive sort of combination, almost reminiscent of fighters in sort of lower weight divisions. very, very good short punches, very, very good short hooks to the body, gets very, very good leverage. On the downside, his head movement is not very good. And yes, absolutely, there are concerns regarding his stamina. Now, yes, it's the first time he's gone 12 rounds, but absolutely after round 6 or 7, he was feeling fatigued, but to give him credit, his focus and his determination didn't deteriorate, or he didn't capitulate given his state. He was still actually fighting well off the back foot, and if there's one thing that I'll take from his performance was his chin, because he took a tremendous amount of overhand rights, but he still stayed up, he didn't go down, and he battled through. So I think it's a very, very good victory, and I think his development can continue. A lot of those mistakes are correctable. I think the natural ability is there. Maybe it's a little bit premature to put him in with a champion at the moment. I still think he can take on 1 or 2 opponents and then maybe challenge, say spring, summer next year. I think he'll be ready.
I want to ask a question. I want everybody to open their mics, please. Gus, Daniel, Jacob all talked about some of the deficiencies of Joseph Parker, particularly from the defense. But offensively, in terms of the distribution of punches, is there a more skilled heavyweight out there right now than Joseph Parker?
You would almost have to say Luis Ortiz by default, but that's just by default.
Yeah, given that Luis, had a considerable and a very distinguished sort of amateur career. I don't know how many, 268 fights or something. So he's got that. So he's faced more opponents in sort of different jurisdictions, etc. So maybe to a certain extent, yeah. But given sort of a young raw fighter who hasn't been on the scene very much, he's got a tremendous amount of natural ability.
That's what I'm saying. But the thing is Ortiz always consistent with it, with the skills, with the maintaining that high level of skill throughout a fight.
Yeah, some would say no, based on his last fight where he was fighting a overmatched guy, but would it go like 9 rounds or something like that?
6.
So I mean, I agree. I think Ortiz has a lot of skill. I mean, I really like. I think Jennings is, even though he got beat by Ortiz, I think he has skill. I'm not a big fan of Wilder, but I'd be dumb to say that he has no skill. But Parker definitely has a lot of natural ability. I think Gus hit on a lot of good points there on things that he does very well. And although I wasn't as impressed with the performance, I do recognize that he does have some natural ability. He's young, and he can only get better. I think skill-wise, he is better than Joshua, but I think maybe they're just at a different stage in their career, and that's why I would pick Joshua to beat Parker.
Your thoughts on this, Francis and Joe, before we move on?
I think it's a good question because Wilder and Joshua are guys with big right hands, but as far as boxing skill, they're not there yet. Parker is ahead of those guys. Luis Ortiz is a guy with a lot of boxing skill. You look at Tyson Fury, I don't really think I would say he's got a lot of boxing skill. His style,
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, his style is more
Absolutely
being
not. Absolutely not.
So yeah, I think you bring up a good point with Parker. The way Parker goes to the body, I think if you're just looking at offensive boxing skill, he's one of the best in the heavyweight division.
Francis?
I agree. Just because of the way he works the jab and his counter punching, I think is superior to the other opponents that we've mentioned. He's much more elusive. He doesn't just rely mostly on his power and the explosiveness behind his punches. He's got a good judgment of timing and how to use it in the ring.
Let's move on and talk about the triple header that took place on Showtime this past weekend in Vegas. Let's start off with I want to start off with Jermall Charlo and Austin Trout. Charlo winning by unanimous decision, 116-112 on two score cards, 115-113 on the third. And I'll start with you guys. We were having a discussion before the show started. The live broadcast made it seem as if Charlo won this bout and won this bout easily. But I think I know I did, I know you did to a certain degree, Gus, thought upon closer inspection that this fight was much closer than the scorecards and the announcers indicated. And for me, Charlo, he had the advantage in the early rounds, but it wasn't as big as folks made it out to be. There were some early rounds to go either way. And for me, from round 7, 8 on, I just thought Austin's Trout, he had more control of the fight. He was out hustling. I see Scorsese is joining us as well. What's going on, brother? I'll go back to you, Gus. To me, Trout, he was out hustling Charlo. Charlo seemed to get tired. The second half of the fight for me, I had it going Austin Trout's way. I know in the pre-fight discussion you agree with me. Your assessment of the Charlo Austin Trout bout?
Yeah, I agree with you almost exclusively, Mike. I mean, when I scored the fight, I had.
I would just say I can make a serious argument that Austin Trout won this fight.
Absolutely, I agree. So, and I was almost doing the same thing on a couple of the other podcasts. Now, when the two fighters came out, what looked sort of, what I saw was that Charlo physically, looked the more imposing fighter, but I was surprised to know that the unofficial weigh-in that they had, that they both rehydrated to, I think, the same weight. So there was no sort of numerical advantage in that side. But in the early rounds, I wouldn't say Austin Trout gave away the rounds as a lot of these mundane commentators and so-called analysts just sort of negged upon. I thought Charlo, maybe counterpunched him a little bit for the volume that he gave away. Maybe there was one or two more eye-catching shots that perhaps may have swayed the judges and a lot of these analysts that he had, banked the rounds. But Austin Trout was landing more overhand lefts. He was actually counter-punching better in the second half of the fight. He actually did a lot more body work that was paying dividends in the latter rounds. Jermell Charlo almost exclusively one-handed, very, very little foot movement. He pretty much stays rooted to the center, tilts his body a little bit. Just to get out of the punches, he'll maybe take 2 steps back. So maybe rely a little bit more on his athleticism. But absolutely no punch variety. Now, against a very, very durable opponent who hasn't been knocked out, surely the logical thing would do to say that, look, even with my so-called power, I may not be able to knock him out. Let me try and systematically break him down. If it's not specifically by head shots, let me try and wear him down simultaneously to his body. But apart from just jabbing with his left in the early rounds, he literally gave that up and he was just headhunting, trying to knock him out with almost single sort of counter shots. Austin Trout is a wily old campaigner. He sussed it out. He was able to sort of double jab and work the body. In the second half of the fight, I felt Jermall Charlo was out of ideas, no change in tempo, no change in game plan. Effectively thinking that his work during the first half of the fight had won him the fight, and no, I wasn't even remotely impressed. I felt Austin Trout to his credit, put up a fantastic fight, and I have sympathy with his disappointment at the end. You can absolutely make a case that he won the fight.
And you mentioned the body work of Trout. The body work from Charlo was virtually non-existent.
Absolutely.
And the jab, he used it to decent effect early, but as the fatigue set in, particularly from the last 3-4 rounds of the fight, it wasn't there. To your point, he was doing exclusively counter-punching and power punching during those times, while Trout was throwing the combinations, throwing the 2, 3, 4 shots, landing with sharp counters. To me, again, I just felt that the second half of the fight carried the argument can be made that carried the fight towards Austin Trout. I'm going to get Scorsese into this. Open up your mic, brother. We're talking Jermall Charlo, his win over Austin Trout. Gus and I are trying to make an argument here that we felt that Austin Trout kind of nudged or pulled the fight in particularly the second half. Your thoughts? What did you see? Do you think that it was Charlo's fight on the way, or do you agree with us in thinking that Trout, he may have pulled this one out?
I've watched it once. I meant to go back and watch it again, but Lara, Vanes Martirosiyan has taken up my time on replays. But night of the fight, I scored a fight for Charlo. I thought the much harder shots and the jab early. I really didn't pay attention to the jab going into the holster. I want to go back and look at that because y'all making me a little bit more conscious about my decisions right here with your arguments. But I thought he landed huge shots, and whenever Trout would land something, I felt like he would come back and sort of take the play with his own right hand. But neither one has nothing to hang their head on. I thought that it would be a little bit of Charlo hitting him and Trout going defensive a little bit and saying, hey, I'm an old dog and I need to, I just rather stay up instead of going to sleep. I just want to go 12. But it didn't happen. Trout showed he was still high level. He could fight with probably anybody in the division. That was a great fight. A southpaw versus an orthodox fighter. Left hands, right hands was just firing off. They were close to each other, foot to foot, basically. But I'm gonna go back and watch. But I did have Charlo the night of the fight based on being a stronger punch.
Before we move on to Daniel, Jacob, and Weller, Francis, and Joe, a quick word, Scorsese. Your thoughts on Joseph Parker's win over Takam, and your early thoughts on the chances that he would stand against Anthony Joshua.
A lot of people was hard on him, but I thought he faced a little adversity. He went to 12 rounds, went to late rounds. His defense a little leaky, but he got some quick hands. Got off the ropes when he needed to get off of them. He made Takam rest when he wanted him to rest. It seemed like Takam couldn't get off, or it was Parker's doing maybe. That he made the fight when he wanted to fight, and he sort of got the rest when he wanted to rest. He learned something, but as he goes late rounds with Joshua, and something happens that we can't foresee right now, he'd probably be a knockout victim.
for Joshua.
Yeah, he'd probably be a knockout. Parker would probably be a knockout victim.
I gotcha. Let's go back to Daniel and Jacob as well as Francis and Joe. Your thoughts on Charlo's win over Jermall Charlo's win over Austin Trout?
You're giving me a lot to think about. I'm gonna have to go watch this again. I mean, I didn't go do a round by round scoring, but I mean, you guys have me intrigued to watch it again and actually do a scoring and see, who I agree or who do I think won the fight, and I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I need to do now, because like I said, watching it live, to me, I saw when they were going the inside, I saw Jermall actually being the better fighter out of the two between him and Trout. He was doing better work when they were actually inside than Trout was, but Trout was landing combinations, and that's his thing. To make up for power, he does technique, and he does technique really well. I know one shot in the 7th round got Charlo's attention real quick. and it was a nice clean shot too, coming off right off a counter. I think of a left hook from Charlo.
Yeah.
But like I said, I need to look at this fight again because, like I said, to me it was mainly the inside work, and it's the fact that Charlo hits harder than Trout. That probably the judges saw a little bit more effect in his punches, but we're probably going to go into this discussion again when we go into Lara Martirosiyan. I still find it kind of weird that people don't appreciate body punching as much as they should, because that's what pays dividends at the end, and Trout did do a really good job of that, but I really need to look at that fight again because I agreed to the 115-13 score for Charlo. I got to look at it again because it might be a toss-up.
Francis, Joe?
I thought that Trout dominated the first couple of rounds with his jab. He did a great job moving around laterally and just countering with that left hand. And I think that Charlo, I think his game plan was really to just fight from the outside, but he didn't seem very effective. He was actually ineffective. So he needed to take more risks, and I think in the second round moving forward, he decided to start bum rushing Trout to get more shots inside. It's not that I thought that he had the tactical edge, because I don't think he had the tactical edge. I thought Trout landed the left hand at will all night long, but I think what the judges were looking at were maybe just maybe the power punching and the bum rushing on behalf of Charlo. He did land more power punches, just according to the stats. He landed 42% of his power punches, which is about 10% more than what Trout landed. But tactically, I thought that Trout had the edge, and I think what the judges saw too is that Trout maybe was waiting a bit for Charlo as the rounds progressed. He started waiting for Charlo, and I think Trout looked his best when he was first. When he was first and when he would counter inside, I thought Trout looked his best. But I think waiting for Charlo to bum rush him and then just trying to come back from that, I could see how the judges would have a different perspective. But I wasn't as impressed with Charlo tactically or just technically as I was with Trout. I think it was just mostly just the waiting, and also too what I noticed was that Trout was landing the left hand at will, but eventually Charlo started countering with the right hand after Trout's left, and that started landing. So there are a lot of different factors that go into that, but I understand your argument in that Trout could have won the fight, definitely.
Finally, Joe?
Yeah, I think Charlo is a little bit frustrating because if you look at him, he looks like he should be unbeatable. He's 6 foot tall, he's in great shape, he's got long arms, and you see that guy, and I think you just assume this guy is going to be great. But his boxing skill level doesn't seem to match his physical traits. I think he's still got a way to go. I agree with you guys that Austin Trout was right in there. I think if maybe a draw or a one-round victory by Charlo, but I thought it was really close. But yeah, I was expecting more out of Charlo. And Austin Trout's a good fighter. He's been in there with some good competition. I figured Trout would give him some trouble, but I was expecting Charlo to be better.
Yeah. To Gus's earlier, when I saw Charlo destroy Brundage for the belt, I know Brundage is old and whatnot, but still Charlo, he showed a lot of potential. Even on the come up, he showed a lot of potential. But in this fight, I didn't see it. Gus made up a good point about how Charlo is limited in his attack, and you referenced that as well, Joe. The more I see Charlo, the more I see a guy who should be doing more. Just simply put, he should be doing more with what he has, particularly his physical attributes. A lot of people make the comparison because he's so tall and so big for the division. They make a comparison to a young Tommy Hearns. Well, the difference is for me, Tommy Hearns, he did a lot more, not just in terms of power, but in terms of punches. He was faster, and he threw a greater variety of punches than we see from what Charlo now. So from moving forward, coming into the fight, when I saw Charlo, I thought, you know what, this guy could give a Canelo, for instance, a heck of a fight, and wouldn't be a bad opponent for Triple G. Watching this performance against Trout now, I don't know now. I don't know. Because again, to Gus's point, he could do more. He really could do more, and it left me empty. It left me empty. It was just such an incomplete performance to me. I see PSB Sports has joined us as well. Thanks for joining us on the show. I'll go to you right quick before we move on. We're talking Jermall Charlo and his win over Austin Trout. Gus and I are making an argument that we felt that Austin Trout very well pulled this fight off. He just didn't get the decision. Your thoughts on what went down? Are you there, PSB? PSB, are you there?
Hello.
Yeah, are you there? Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. We're talking. We were talking Austin Trout and his loss to Jermall Charlo. Gus and I were making the argument that we felt that the fight was much closer than the scorecards indicated, and we're both making an argument that we believe that Austin Trout very well pulled this fight off. Your thoughts on what went down?
I thought it was quite interesting. You know how you're saying how the scorecards were closer, but in your opinion, who do you think actually won though? Who in your opinion, who do you think actually won the fight?
Watching it a second or third time, I don't know. I could go either way. It was that close. Drawish kind of fight. Maybe Trout pulled it out by a point, maybe two. But again, to me, when people were saying on the live broadcast and commentary immediately following that it was Charlo's Trout all the way, I just could not disagree more. I thought the fight was even, and maybe Trout, edged it a bit there.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it was on pretty late in the UK, so I watched it the day after, and I saw everyone's tweets and stuff. When I watched it back, I scored it dead even. I scored it a draw, to be honest, purely because of the fact that I was surprised at the judges' scoring. Firstly, secondly, I thought it was one of those fights where I couldn't pick a winner. Thirdly, I believe that it was quite a good fight, so they should dance again, as Don King says. And I think they should definitely fight again, because I thought it was a close fight, much closer than what the scorecard suggested. And who knows? Maybe Austin Trout should have taken that Liam Smith fight for the world title instead.
Yeah, because the way he looked last Saturday, excuse me, he stands a very good chance of beating Liam Smith, who we just do not know enough about at this point.
Absolutely.
I will go to you, Scorsese. Start you off begin the discussion about Vanes and Lara, the rematch.
Yeah, it was. Since y'all brought this, the last fight we're speaking on up, I'm watching on my Showtime Anytime app right now while we're doing this, but I'm very familiar with the Vanes Lara fight, and I do feel the right man won the fight. I think Farhood scored it pretty perfect. I think he gave Lara 4, 5, 6, and 7, or maybe it was just 4, 5, and 6. And I think it was correct. Vanes did show a lot, though. He did show that he watched that Canelo fight. He made an effort to become a body puncher. He showed he watched Angulo fight. He made an effort to be something he's really not, but something he might put in his game and become after that fight.
Yeah, he wasn't messing around with that left hook to the body for sure.
None whatsoever. And I gotta give Lara a lot of respect, because he made Vanes respect him. Because I asked myself today, what welterweight can come from 47 and have an easy fight with Vanes at 54, and I felt none of them. I felt none whatsoever. He might stop a few of them. And Lara really sit down on some of them left hands and got his respect. One punch in particular, I think it was, I can't remember the round, but Vanes sees that it's a close round. Lara's landed a few lefts. He's trying to get to that body real quick before the end of the round ended on a high note. he gets to reaching, and Lara just threw a right hook over the top of his shoulder, catches him dead on the ear. And I know a lot of people not going to see that punch and think, but it was right down the ear. Vanes does nothing for the remainder of 15 seconds or so. And this is a round where Al Bernstein says Vanes is reaching, now he's paying the price right after that. And it's a big shot that a lot of people will say, hey, that's not a big shot. No, it hit him right in the ear, knocked him off balance. He done nothing else for the round. Lara found a way to get his respect. It's fun watching that fight because I like to say they can fight 30 times and it'll be close 30 times. And I guess Jacob's gonna make. I think it's Jacob. It's gonna make a point that Daniel. I think it's Daniel. He's gonna make a point that the body puncher should have won out. I do think it was great, but I have to say body punching is a means to an end, not a means to a win. And Vanes sort of recognized that because you saw in the 10th, 11th, 12th round, he started hoping that head would fall after those body shots, and it never really quite did. So I do believe you can win with body punching, but you gotta limit how much you get hit clean in the face. And Lara was teeing off in some round. It was no joke. It was also a good fight. Now I think both men kind of up their stock again in that fight.
I'll go to Daniel, and then you can follow Francis and Joe. To Scorsese's point, for me, the fight was more entertaining than what I read and when people were talking about it on Twitter or Dan Rayfield, his analysis calling it an awful, miserable, boring fight. During the live broadcast, Paul Malignaggi was very astute in noting that how both guys were really standing in the pocket and facing off with each other, and that's the aspect about this fight that I like. Lara didn't really move as much as we're used to seeing him, particularly early on in the fight. He stayed right there. Vanes stayed right there with him, and for me, it was a lot of skill exhibited in that fight that was really not noticeable to folks who were to the average eye, and that part of me that like, okay, this was it's a better fight than I thought it was. I was entertained.
But Michael, if Dan wrote that, he just didn't watch the fight and he read comments and just threw something together to get his job done because it was not a boring fight.
Yeah. Your thoughts, Daniel, and then Francis and Joe.
It wasn't boring, but it is frustrating. And like I know, particularly Francis shares the sentiment with me when it comes to Erislandy Lara. I feel like as soon as he or Ronnie Shields, or either both of them, feel like they have enough points, they take their foot off the pedal. And then that's when you see the lateral movement and then what people start to call running. Because that's what Lara started to do a little bit in the second half of the fight. In the first half of the fight, he was standing there with Vanes Martirosiyan and trying to land good shots, trying to establish the jab, but mainly headhunt. Now, I like the fact that Martirosiyan did go to the body. He focused a lot of it. I forgot what round it was, but I think I threw 5 left hooks to the liver in a row.
I'm hearing some background there. Scorsese, mute your mic for a second.
I'm sorry about that.
Go ahead, Daniel.
No problem. Like I think I forgot what round it was, but I think Vanes threw like 5 body punches in a row, where he just tried to get Lara in there. But unfortunately, the fact is, the styles clashed again. You saw also a lot of headbutting. You saw Lara with a really nasty hematoma that luckily his corner was able to control a little bit. And oh god, I know I don't like talking to rest, but I don't like Big Dragic. Those 2 low blows were not low blows.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah,
like okay, the first punch you can blatantly tell that Lara was pushing Vanes' hand down, and then the second punch was on the belt line. Right on the belt line. And that's part where Vanes probably lost the fight to a lot of people. If he doesn't fight a perfect fight in his eyes, he starts mentally breaking down a little bit. And that happened a little bit in the 11th and 12th round. But like I said, to his credit, he upped his stock a lot. in this fight. Like between that and the Trout fight, the loser actually probably came out a little bit better than the winner in both of those fights.
Francis, Joe, and then Gus and PSB.
I found this fight entertaining for a couple of reasons. I like that Lara was actually not moving around as much. I think he has very impressive footwork. We saw him fight live here in Chicago when he faced Delvin Rodriguez, and he has excellent footwork, and he looks even quicker in real life. But I like that he didn't move around this time as much. What I did like was that he was landing a lot of straight punches, a lot of those left hands, and from Vanes, he was actually able to land a lot of those body shots, which I found also very impressive. I agree with Dan's point in that I thought that Lara started moving around a lot more, and there was more pot shotting as the fight continued on, which is why I sometimes consider Lara is extremely boring, but at the same time very patient, smart, and technically superior, but at the same time kind of boring. And I also thought that Martirosiyan, he did a good job of connecting shots to Lara's body and uppercuts and left hooks to the body. But yeah, I also thought he moved better when he fought Charlo, whenever that fight was. But I thought he moved a lot better back then. This time I thought he was more flat-footed, and it might have worked better to his advantage if he had moved around at the ring more as opposed to just standing in front of him. Although Lara did land approximately half of his power punches, so in precision he'd never be able to compete with Lara.
Yeah, and Lara's a little frustrating because skill-wise, he's so good. And I kept getting the impression, I want to like Lara, but I kept getting the impression that, okay, he gets up on the scorecards and then he just goes into retreat mode. And because the first 8 rounds were really good. I liked that fight. And I thought Vanes did a good job going the body. I thought both guys were making adjustments. And I had fun watching the first 8 rounds. And then the last 4 were pretty frustrating because I felt like Lara was just avoiding Vanes and just trying to stay away. But I think he's so good. I would love to see him either move up against Triple G or even with a rematch with Canelo. I think skill-wise he's so good, but man, just there are moments where he's just so frustrating and boring.
Gus and then PSB.
Yeah, Mike, a fight that absolutely did not warrant top billing on a Showtime card. For me, it was an uninspiring rematch. You know, who the hell wanted this rematch? I know Vanes was probably the only person. You know, Erislandy Lara, you know, I've become disillusioned with this fighter. You know, former world amateur boxing champion. He probably would have won the Olympics as well had he not defected. But he seems more interested in humiliating his opponents in front of their fans rather than establishing his own fans. And he fights, he doesn't exemplify the sweet science for me. You know, the sweet science is not just about hitting your opponent and don't get hit. It's about breaking down your opponent, and that's the key attribute. And he clearly does not exemplify or purvey that in any capacity. He just seems to run on his back foot, you know, land a couple of 1-2s here and there, almost frustrate his opponents into submission. You know, I just really cannot watch him anymore. You know, I'm not interested in what CompuBox or whatever said. You know, I counted 62 punches he landed. And for a 12-round fight, you know, that's pathetic. In scoring this fight, yeah, I think he was marginally the better fighter, but I think Vanes had a little bit more better punch variety, particularly his body work. Lara's straight hands, his lefties, his customary weapon was having some effect, and maybe that won him the fight. But nah, you know, when this fight, you know, started, I just put on my balaclava instead of head.
Wow. PSB.
Hi, sorry, what was the
We're talking about Lara in the rematch with Vanes Martirosiyan. Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, I think I think Lara. I remember when he pushed Canelo right to the edge. Canelo's had a few dubious decisions in his time. I think one of them was definitely Lara. I think Lara was a world level elite fighter. I see him winning that rematch, to be honest.
Well, okay, I thought Lara won the first fight. You're saying he would rematch if he was to fight Canelo. Explain.
Yeah, so I mean, I think in the Canelo fight, numerous people thought he actually drew, or he might have won by a round or two. And I mean, I agree with you when you say you thought he won the first fight. So did I, which is why I was a bit surprised the rematch was happening, because I thought he won the first fight, fair and square. And a guy like that who's been in there with the best, like Canelo, some people thought he won. I can only see a one-way victory here for Lara.
I'm gonna go back to you as well as Gus. I mean, okay, look, David Haye, he blew out some guy in round one. Round two, Shannon Briggs, he blew out some guy with a body shot. It looks like they're going to fight each other. Let the hype begin. I'm not that interested in it, really. What was the vibe? What was the reaction to Briggs scribbling "Let's go, champ" every chance he got? The back and forth with Haye. A little bit unfair for you alone to speak for all of the UK, but I'm asking you the question anyway. The reaction of the British public to Briggs and to this upcoming fight between David Haye and Shannon Briggs.
Wow. I mean, we all know, this was a circus sideshow, for the hardcore faithfuls. But, in the UK, it got, the O2 Arena, London's O2 Arena was sold out. I think there was just under 13,000 people there. That's a considerable sellout. And Shannon Briggs has amassed a huge army in London. There were folks who came out from Brixton, North London, Manchester, Leeds. People even came down from Glasgow, I was hearing, to come and watch him. Folks, they kind of like it when fighters, come over here. And, he came out and, he appealed to the people because he was out in the town centres with people, sort of interacting with them. We know he was trying to resurrect his career, and he effectively talked himself into a payday and a potential, should he overcome David Haye, to potentially fight, I don't know, maybe Joshua for the IBF belt. I think that would be sufficiently sort of lucrative in the UK. But if you really look at the opponents, a third string opponent, this guy, he must have been working in Cafe Nero in Canary Wharf, and when Haye sort of walked in and just took one look at the guy and said, you know what, you're 6'4", how do you fancy fighting Shannon Briggs, because this guy was derisory to say the least. And as of David Haye's opponent, my God, that was some professional cherry picking of the highest magnitude. A fighter with a 27 fight undefeated record, in Switzerland, and we're all hardcore boxing fans, even super hardcore on this podcast, and I'm pretty sure that none of us had even heard of Arnold Jager or whatever his name was. It must have been a cheesemaker or whatever else, because he showed a little bit, but for God's sake, Haye knocking him down with a jab, it was EJ Boxing, myself, we were calling the fight live, and we were absolutely, we were sort of almost hysterical in our emotions, thinking, but a few of the people that I know were actually at the O2. They were saying that there was a considerable amount of people even waiting outside for Shannon after he'd left the arena, sort of an hour, 2 hours later, sort of waiting to take signatures. Yeah, so he so it seems like he's got a massive following, and that fight will inevitably that's probably going to sell out within an hour. And Dave TV, which showed it, one of the sort of free satellite channels in the UK, that'll have I could see peak viewing going to about 4 million people as well. So an absolute circus sideshow, but it's just sort of generated and sort of pushed in all of the casuals. David Haye's got a massive following. There's obviously a lot of ladies who were there in the crowd who naturally want to see him. They see him as as an athlete they sort of admire. So not only does he have all of the the sort of beautiful young ladies, but he's got a lot of the casual fans. And seems like Shannon, he's got all of the people from the housing estates and all of the sort of blue collar workers as well. So a joke, but it's doing the rounds.
PSB, your thoughts on the circus that was that Haye Shannon Briggs card, and the level of excitement there in your part of the world about that fight coming up?
Yeah, I think basically I went to the I was there. I went to the press conferences. I went to the first press conference in London when Briggs. I was there actually on PSP Sports, so when Briggs actually stormed the press conference. And to be honest, a lot of the British public were very dissatisfied with what they saw on Saturday night. Georgia was a bum. It was a bum basically, according to the people. He had a 29-0 record, although it was a padded record. So a lot of people from the UK were very unhappy with basically what they saw on Saturday. A lot of them think it's a farce. In terms of Haye Briggs, people are quite excited about that fight, believe it or not. You got two knockout artists that are just going to be going for it. So people are excited about Haye Briggs, but one thing's for sure is that they weren't happy about the fight now on Saturday. I mean, I interviewed Shane McGuigan, David Haye's trainer, on Tuesday, and I interviewed him on the first press conference. He said that he isn't worried about Briggs. He just focused on David Haye winning that fight, and he was impressed with his performance on Saturday.
I'll just open up the mic, open it up for everybody else. Any brief comments, if you want to comment at all, on what we saw, on what went down last week in England? And this is just for anybody who wants to chime in.
What fight are you talking about? How you doing?
I didn't know you joined us. Thanks for joining us, EJ Boxing Live. We're talking about that Briggs, Haye, that circus, upcoming fight. Your thoughts on anybody want to have a comment on that? Because
man, I was there the whole week, man. I was there for the whole build up, the Cobra, Shannon Briggs, man. It was a happening, bro. It was happening, but you knew, David Haye was probably gonna beat that dude, and Shannon Briggs, his opponent, they kept on. He had 2 opponents drop out, and they got that guy looking like Danny Garcia's dad, Angel, in the ring with Shannon Briggs. It's a good body shot, by the way. It was a good body shot. Shannon. To me, Shannon's gonna. If you fight David Haye, he's gonna get served up. He's gonna get served up, in my opinion. But having said that, David, listen, he's in debt problems, and $1 million fight he made £1 million. So end of the day, good luck to him. Whatever. If you can do that, not fight no more exhibitions. Jose Mourinho, I don't even know. He used to manage Chelsea. You had Eve, the rapper, ringside. So a lot of stars turned out. There's some, a lot of people turned out. It was more like an exhibition, fun thing. So the David Haye show continues, and we see after Shannon Briggs. It was hey, listen, mate. Loads of people tuned in to watch that fight. Loads of people gonna tune in on Sunday to watch Tony Bellew. So end of the day, us UK guys, we support our own. And as as for the purists, you're just gonna think, oh, what's the point of that? But hey, if you can get away with it, you can get away with it and make that money. So big up to David Haye, man. If you can get away with that, make $1 million, not do it in that sort of fight, I'd do it as well. So that's what I've got to say on that.
Scorsese, Daniel, Jacob, Francis, Joe, any of you want to comment on this?
It's garbage to me. I mean, it doesn't interest me, these fights that don't mean anything or don't lead to anything. I mean, Briggs is an old guy who's gonna get his ass kicked if he fights Haye, and it's, I don't know. I like fights that have some type of meaning, or that it's some type of matchup that's interesting, or if it's even somebody that isn't necessarily known, but they put up a good spirited effort, and it becomes one of those fights to remember. Those are the kind of fights I'm looking for, not this kind of stuff.
I had no interest in that, but you guys did put me back on on that Jermell Charlo, and just run off some scores on the rounds I got to watch so far. I gave Trout 9, I gave Charlo 10, 11, and 12. Hardest shots, man. I'm talking about Trout was boxing beautiful in the 11th round. Charlo just came in 11th. He almost put him down at the end of the round. He had Trout limping back to the corner. It was just basically one step. He hit the ropes, looked like he lost his footing, and then the seat was right there, so he didn't have to look bad anymore, man. I love this fight, man. I'm sorry I got off topic, but that's really not even the topic, man. Jesus.
It sounds like nobody else would have talked Briggs.
I mean, Briggs, you know what? I'll put a stamp on it. Let's see where I can go with this. And somebody told me I had crazy ideas. I think Boxing Beats Around told me I was crazy for this. And then somebody in this comment section said, no, it's actually a good idea.
Yo, Scorsese, what's up with your mic, man? Yo, sort your mic out, bro. You sound like you're underneath the water, bro.
You can't hear me?
Man, that sounds terrible, man. Y'all fix up. You need to get me. What's going on there, bro?
Don't worry about it. I'll fix it by the time the podcast comes out. So
must be, man. You're sleeping on your belly or something. Hey,
no, I did. It's all. Let me see. I'll jump out and come back in.
Okay, yeah. I'll go to you quickly. EJ, trying to control the sound on my own show, but that's okay.
That's bad for your ears, man. That's just bad for my ears, man. Go ahead.
We'll talk. I'll ask you this question before we move on.
Earlier. Wait, one sec. I've got to find out. EJ, what are you doing up so late, man? What's going on?
Hey, I don't sleep. You don't know? Hey, yes, I see you. I don't sleep. I'm like you, man. I see you doing your work over that the George Groves and thing weird. So I should have been there, but yeah, I'm like you, man. I'm 24 hours boxing. I don't sleep. Scorsese, you back? I'm good. I'm good. Yes, man.
That's it. I'm better.
You sound man. It sounds terrible.
Let me go to you quickly, EJ. Earlier we were talking Austin Trout and Jermall Charlo. Gus and I were making an argument that the fight was much closer than the scores indicated. Possibly a draw. Maybe the fight leaning Trout's way barely. Your thoughts on it?
I fell asleep on that, man. Boring. Man, David Haye and Shannon Briggs were the fight of the night, and I didn't care about it. I fell asleep, man. Sorry, man. All I saw is highlights, so I can't jump in on that, man. My bad. Sorry, man. Like, you got me on that one. I burnt out. I'm sorry.
So you do sleep?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he does sleep.
No, it is. It's like, no, I'm like a computer. Like, I keep going until I shut down. Like, I don't want to sleep, but I just shut down. Like, I don't want to sleep. Like, automatically, I turn off and then I reboot and then I'm back on it.
We need to pull back EJ's hard drive, man.
Yeah. I need to update it.
Well,
somebody let me know. Am I okay now?
Bro. You're fine, bro.
I tried to fix it.
Yeah, you sound better. You sound better.
Sound like you got a megaphone now.
Yeah, I'll just cut his. I can control his volume from here, so don't worry about it. Well, quickly, I'll just open up the mic for everybody. I'm not wrong, Roy. Lost yesterday. Stopped in round 4 to rematch with John Casimero in China. Rung Roy, he was throwing some wrestling around, tripping guys, as he usually does, the tactics, if you will. But in round 4, he got caught with a left hook from Casemiro, and then the body shot that ended the fight later on in that round. Wicked punch, very wicked punch. Sensational one-punch body shot knockout. I'll just open up for anybody who saw the fight. Your thoughts on it?
I caught it just a second ago, about an hour or two ago. Run, like you said, godly. Watching him fight, if Lara's boring, I don't know what to call that. I don't know what to call that. So he's winning the rounds, but I get to the knockout. Jumps in, no hands up, and the punch did what everybody was hoping it would do. Give us somebody else to watch. That's what I think everybody should have been hoping. He's the Miguel Vasquez of 112. Or somebody said Bernard Hopkins. I would say Vasquez.
He's way dirtier than Hopkins ever was. So.
And he got what he deserved. I'm watching the knockout and I'm just thinking, like, when is it gonna come? You know, like, this dude is doing a horrible job of finishing at first, and he's going swinging at the shoulder, punch going past the ear. Next thing you know, he finally gets that body shot in there. He landed 2 actually. The first one did a little damage, and the second one, unlike Lara, he couldn't catch him behind his arm on the rib cage. It looked like it shot in between the stomach area a little bit, and that got him out of there. That's what we all should have wanted.
It's been a while since we heard from you, Francis and Joe. I think I shared the link with y'all. Your thoughts on what you saw?
Yeah, you know what? I thought the 4th round was pretty interesting because that first knockdown happened in a blink of an eye, and then that body shot that finished it was nasty. It just destroyed Arnott. It was a pretty good win for the little Filipino kid, and he's only 26 years old, so I guess we'll see where he goes from here. But yeah, it was that last knockout was to the body that was pretty nasty.
Yeah, I agree. That was a tremendous knockout. It was hard to see behind the ref, but it looked like it was a left hook to the body with wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of bum rushing in and Casemiro just catching him at the right moment. Similar fighting styles. I think Rumrong had the size advantage, but in terms of like their form and having the shoulder forward and just sort of staying at an angle, I thought they were very similar. But I think that Filipino kid was just a lot smaller, so he had a difficult time with Rumrong. But to me, it looked like a tremendous and a very lucky shot, and a perfectly timed shot, and if not, a very lucky shot.
This was a rematch, right?
Yeah, the first fight.
Yeah.
I think Scorsese was saying that he got what he deserved. I feel similarly the same way because of how that first fight went. Stop it, EJ. Stop it. You know, Run
That's
Roy
my
was
boy, man. That's my boy. You know that's my guy, man.
Run Roy should have been disqualified that first fight as dirty as he was. Stop it.
Damn right.
So, again, his comeuppance. And I love the way that Casemiro, that sinister smile he gave to Rung Roy after that second knockdown was he went down and Rung Roy crumbled and couldn't get back up.
Yeah.
That was lovely. Proceed, anybody else? Anyone?
Yeah. Hey, listen. Sorry, go ahead, Daniel. Go ahead. Daniel Jacob, which one is it?
No, I was gonna say just one quick thing. I think it was Scorsese earlier was saying, body shots sometimes don't win fights, but that one did.
Huh? Scorsese said that? Hey,
Scorsese. No. Hold on. What I meant.
And Crawler won by body shots twice in a row, mate.
No. Don't get me wrong. Body shots are a means to an end, not a means to a win. By that I mean you're not looking to win a decision with body shots. You're looking to hit this man, break him down, and hope that head fall to where he cannot continue. But you're hoping to get that liver shot and end him. It's a means to an end. That's what
I'm messing with you, man.
Yeah, he got that ending. He got it. He went for it and got it.
Hey, yep. Let me give my take on Net Wrong, man. Because me and Nauta just done some super commentary. Check it out in the cinema near you. We're coming out. Don't worry, I'll put it on Daily Motion. Me and Nauta just done it just minutes ago. So that fight right there, yeah, shows you boxing you never know. Like, he beat him in the decision. Okay, it was dirty. They fought on neutral ground in Beijing, China. Tony Reeks, Mike Tyson was there. Roy Jones, because it was a convention. It was a happening. It was an event. And that's the time where Net Wrong's supposed to shine. and the dude was just he was waiting, because the thing is he's fought him before, and then it must have worked out. Like, and Netron likes to jump in, with his punches and put his left leg behind your leg and trip you up. You know, the Muay Thai techniques and stuff like that. And when he jumped in at that point, he caught him with a beautiful shot. I thought Netman was almost dead. Like, I'm even surprised. The guy's got a lot of heart to even get up from that. And he actually tried a bit. But, bro, that body shot was murder. Like, the guy just crumpled, like, down. And you knew the fight was over. And you know what? We have a new champ. I don't know how long he's going to hold that guy's going to hold the belt for. But I'll tell you what. If I'm Chocolito, I don't even move up to fight. What's the guy's name again? The Mexican guy up with the belt.
Kudros.
You know, I don't even move up. I say, boy, HBO, give me that dude right there. Right there, I'll take that dude there. And you pick up another IBF belt. Because that you can beat that dude there, right? You can beat that dude. Or, you know, maybe a Netron tries to go for a third fight, a rubber match. But I don't like his chances. But,
well, real talk. Roman's technically his mandatory now would be a better fight, a tougher fight for him than Casemiro. Let's be honest about it.
That guy there, the we talking about that monster, he's got waiting for him, right?
Yeah.
The monster from Thailand.
Yeah.
His mandatory is Napon Por Chok Chai.
Yeah, that guy's the beast, bro. He's tall, he's mad, he looks like a giant. I mean, that's the guy waiting for Chocolito. But if I was Chocolito, I blatantly vacate my belt and go and get the IBF belt and stay away from that chunk guy.
And besides, you know, not only the first fight, the reason I felt it was his come up as Ron Roy. 5.5 pounds over at the weigh-in? Really?
Twice.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's amazing.
Really?
Yeah, that's amazing. That's probably why that body shot had more effect as well. You know what I mean? He come chubby around there.
Both of them actually failed to make the weight twice, and there's no footage on any of them making the official weight.
That's my you know, excuse me for being conspiracy theorist here. How do we know for sure they made weight?
Yeah, exactly. I really don't think, you know, he came in at 113. He tried to shake it off. He still came back 113, and apparently they said they went back to the Great Wall of China Hotel or wherever else, and they made the weigh-in subsequently. So
117.5 for Ron Roy? Really?
Yeah, it shows you, man. Like, innit? It's hard them weights there. He's a tall dude for that weight as well. You know, but eventually catch up with him, man. That guy's a road warrior as well. Even as a champion, he'll go other people's backyard. The two of them actually will fight any and anyone. But hey, caught up with him. That's why I think that body shot had so much an effect as well. But hey, we have a new champion, and it's a shame of because I would love to see Chocolito versus Netron. Maybe they can make that fight now, innit? So I don't know.
He never had the chin to deal with the Roman Gonzalez.
Well, he would have beat.
No.
Gonzalez would have annihilated him.
I put that dude against. Not now though. Not now. After you got beat like that, he can get chopped down. But
no. Besides, if they would have fought Ron Roy, particularly here, they would have put a referee who wouldn't have let Ron Roy do all that holding and tripping guys. No way. So would have left him more susceptible to getting hit. So
my boy's gone down, innit? He's a warrior. I still roll with him. I love the way he boxed. I like the way he beat Zhao Ximing. I like the way he beat Annette Williams at Raw. Man, the dude was a legend, boy. But you know, like every year, you stay along in the game long enough, and these things happen. So that's what happens, isn't it? You lose.
Let's talk about some news here. Apparently, now I'll just open it. Who will I go to? I'll go to you, Daniel. Apparently, Lucien Boutte failed drug test. He tested positive in his bout with Baodu Jack. Any details?
All right, this came out with just a couple hours ago. Like the substance that he failed for was Ostarine. Now, this got caught in the A sample. He said he's very open now to test the B sample. But what this does is it assists training and increases your stamina. Kind of same thing as the little issue that Povetkin got caught in. It mainly helps like to up your stamina in training camp. But its effect is similar to anabolic steroids from what I'm seeing here. It's a very, very shocking thing, unfortunately, because this is literally, what, the fourth big name fighter that got caught with something within the last 2 months. Let's go through the names: Lucas Brown, Francisco Vargas, Alexander Povetkin, and now Lucian Bute. And Bute now puts everything into question, because now we have to see whether or not I have to look at the DeGale fight now at a different light. Who knows if he was on this stuff in the DeGale fight?
Yeah. This is a trend. To your point, this is a trend.
Bro, listen, after he got knocked out, I don't blame him. He got cobraed. After he got cobraed, but you got to do something to get yourself back. And I listen, I'm not surprised he was cheating. I didn't think he was, but like I was surprised he was taking the punches from because he didn't look that good against Pascal. He looked just normal, like getting his beating. That's what I thought, yeah. But when he went against James DeGale, I was like, man, he got him strong. So damn, I was wondering why he wouldn't be able to go over, because James DeGale hits pretty hard, and I was expecting James DeGale to stop him handily. And the fight went the distance. It was pretty brutal for James DeGale. And then obviously with Badou Jack as well. Badou Jack hits hard as well, and he looked fresh. He was coming forward. He actually thought he won the fight. Now we know why. These drugs, yeah, are very dangerous, yeah. And the fact that you took that to get in there to get an advantage. Listen, bro, that's terrible. That's terrible. That can end people's lives, man. And Lucian Bute, all the stuff he's ever done in his boxing to find out this information, it's terrible. It's not good at all, man. It's a dangerous, and this stuff needs to be cleaned up. Someone's really gonna get hurt out here, and our sport's gonna be in trouble. They're gonna think someone died. The guy used steroids and someone ended up getting killed, man. It's bad, man. It's bad. Povetkin, another one. He's another one. They need to be banned, bro. Like there needs to be some hard repercussions for this stuff, yeah. But like in another way, you want to see a fight, then fight. But this stuff is dangerous. Why do you need to do that? Anyway, I've got nothing to say.
Speaking of fighters testing positive for PEDs, let's talk about Povetkin. I was off last week, so I didn't get to talk about it. We can talk about it now. I'll go to you, Gus, and then you can follow Jacob and PSB. Your thoughts on Povetkin? Was set to fight Deontay Wilder on the 21st of May. That fight was postponed, later on canceled because Povetkin tested positive for meladonium. A positive was the A sample was positive. We later on found out that the B sample was positive as well. We were talking before the show again, Gus. Yes. Widespread. This speaks to a larger issue of widespread issues within Russia, and not really just amongst boxers, athletes in general, testing positive for illegal substances. Here in the States, 60 Minutes did a special on it. I was talking about it on Daniel's show. But again, we talked about it before the show, Gus. Talk about the Povetkin situation, as well as the larger issue here in terms of Russian athletes in general.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. This situation does not surprise me in the slightest context, because I've been monitoring the situation in Russia from some work I've been doing, investigations, etc. And now the situation regarding Rusada was first highlighted following investigations from a German broadcaster, which subsequently led to WADA setting up an independent commission to conduct a very, very detailed investigation regarding the alleged state-sponsored systematic drug abuse within the Russian Federation, and how it involved elements including the FSB agency, who we all know are the new sort of KGB, and how the report alleged that they were covertly entering Rusada's headquarters and they either tampered with or they confiscated over 100 samples from track and field athletes within the Russian Federation over a 5-year duration. Some are saying even as much as 10, sort of 12 years. And how this situation did not come to light was that the corruption went as far as to the Russian sports minister, who the report alleged in sort of Wilder's 323-page report sent financial reparations and backhanders to the IAAF president at the time, Lamine Diak, and Lamine Diak's son, who was overseeing his finances, was subsequently laundering the money in various sort of offshore and shell corporations, Cayman Islands, the Bahamas, Cyprus. I think 1 or 2 companies were found there with large deposits, sort of tracing back to unknown sort of Russian bank accounts. Hence why RUSADA had failed its compliance report and was subsequently removed from its official status, and the ban is still in place now until they can effectively demonstrate diligent and sort of fully transparent abilities in conducting it. And if we look at Alexander Povetkin now, his abilities and his physical demeanor and appearances have long been into question, specifically after the Marco Huck fight. And the fight which certainly raised my eyebrows was the fight with Vladimir Klitschko, particularly his durability in not only taking the punishment he was, but his ability to withstand a man actually leaning on his head for the entire duration, punching down on his head. And there were several stages in which Povetkin was lifting Klitschko's full body off the mat. You're talking a 260, 70-pound guy. And his ability to absorb that punishment and come out in the 11th and 12th round, firing. Teddy Atlas had long described Povetkin as, a 3-4 round fighter, almost in the amateur standpoints, because he was a very, very good 3-round amateur fighter, from a gold medalist as well. And we've seen Povetkin's, physical appearance actually develop as well. Not to the extent that it's exaggerated, but certainly his upper body has developed, and
it was still noticeable.
Yeah, absolutely. And his style had changed, and his stamina, etc. And it coincides with what meldonium is. Meldonium increases your blood vessels specifically. That's a direct correlation, and then hence it's pumping more body to your organs. So hence your muscles are absorbing blood and sort of oxygen-rich hemoglobin. So thus your stamina is improving, your endurance, your durability, the susceptibility of your muscles are recovering faster against injury, and all of that mirrors in the way Povetkin's fighting style and his stamina as well. And so no, it wasn't a surprise to me, and particularly the amounts are irrelevant to me, because I know of the techniques that have implemented by doctors in the federation, particularly around microdosage, sort of controlling amounts which should be exhausted within, they say, 7 to 10 days, but depending on anything less than sort of 0.5 milligrams, that can stay in your systems up to 2 weeks, and that certainly fits in with the way VADA had analysed his sample after failing at sort of some of the earlier tests. So no, it's not a surprise to me. I certainly applaud VADA, and it's no surprise that the WBC have not suspended Povetkin. They're merely postponing the fight because of this corruption involved in the game. They fully realise that this is the most lucrative World Heavyweight Championship fight, a £7 million fight, and clearly they want their cut. They want their sanctioning fee. So it's a disgrace, but it doesn't surprise me in any capacity.
I'll just open up quickly for anybody else here in the chat. Jacob, PSB, Scorsese, Daniel, your reaction, your thoughts in reaction to the positive test and the postponement of this fight.
Yeah, I mean, he shouldn't get a shot at the belt. I mean, and he shouldn't be forced to, or Deontay Wilder shouldn't be forced to fight him. I mean, the guy, he failed two, the A and the B, and, the stuff that Gus pointed out earlier. I've heard Povetkin called Povetkin 2.0, since his transformation. And, he blew it, man. I mean, for whatever reason that he did this, and like EJ said before, it is dangerous, I think. Also, I'll speak to that in the sense that I think this weight gain and blowing up thing is also a dangerous thing for fighters, and it can put a black spot on boxing itself, if somebody gets seriously hurt or dies. And unfortunately, that's usually what has to happen before any kind of real changes happen. But I think it's a good thing that that this testing is catching a lot of these people. Some circumstances might, like the Vargas thing, where I do believe him in the sense of some of the proof that they have, but something like this where it's been tied to the whole Russian Olympic athletes, and even if you go back far in history, I mean, I think Germany had a big scandal with that with the Olympics. So, I mean, to me, he's a cheater. He doesn't deserve a shot at the belt, and they can do all they want, but hopefully the sanctioning bodies do the right thing, and I know greed is a big part of that, but hopefully they do the right thing.
Scorsese.
Is it official that his B sample was bad too?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not hear that. I'm glad I got on this show. I just further goes to show cheater. Got nothing much to say about him. If Wilder is wanting to make his $5 million when it's out of his system, I don't know if they re-purse bid. I don't know how that's gonna go there. And I think Daniel mentioned in the chat how does it affect Wilder and the WBC mandatory and that fight in general. Like, they need to make a decision, or they need to make a rule and see what's going on. And I hope Wilder doesn't fight Areola. I hope he goes for at least Washington.
Okay, let's get on this right now. Yeah, let's do this situation right now. Yeah, to Mike's credit, you mentioned it on the beginning of the show, and Dan Riffey reported Povetkin's B sample is tested positive. The WBC now no longer has a choice. They're gonna suspend Povetkin, and this opens up a little Pandora's box with the mandatory situation, because you suspend Povetkin, now you may have to order the two next people up to fight for the mandatory spot, which is Romain Stavern and Kurlev Pulev. You have those guys fighting for the mandatory spot. Meanwhile, you're going to have to give Wilder now 2 voluntary defenses, because yesterday they granted him 1. And to Scorsese's point, I hope to God it is not Chris Arreola. I hope to God it is not Chris Arreola. Like I say, Chris Arreola is everybody's fat cholo friend, but he doesn't deserve that fight. Like, Wilder, I think, has reached a point where he has to fight somebody in the top 10, and almost everybody's not busy. Like, the only person I see that's legitimate in the top 10 that he has to give a shot is Jennings. His original mandatory to begin with.
Yeah.
Parker, they're looking Parker, man.
No,
you should give Parker a shot.
probably not, because then I would give it to Takam. That's the thing, and to me, Parker's team is smart enough to know that their avenue is a little bit faster with Joshua than it is with Wilder.
Yeah, that's true.
And Parker's isn't he already going to fight? He's already scheduled to fight another person.
Yeah, exactly.
It's,
Parker is actually
Solomon Hamono or something.
he's coming back quickly. He's fighting in July. Parker.
Yep.
Yeah.
But this opens up a whole new avenue. Actually, also to Gus's, like I said, very, very well detailed point out. Like I said, the whole issue with Russia, which, by the way, like I said, I mentioned before, it's the reason why Russia currently has no delegation going to Rio for the Olympics. It goes all the way up to Vladimir Putin. And Russia, this not only like I said, they already cost them a spot in the Olympics. Imagine if it cost them World Cup now. It's a little bit less than 2 years, but they might cost them the World Cup too now.
That's right. They are hosting the World Cup in 2016.
Yep, and that's going to be.
What's
fun
Roy
for
Jones' involvement in this?
Roy Jones, in order to fight.
Isn't that what's his name? Best friend?
Look, man, let me shut up. I'm not gonna say nothing.
Roy Jones defended that. He said he's countryman. He defended his countryman. He thinks he's innocent. That's what Roy Jones said, isn't it?
I'm gonna be taking Roy out in 10 years.
Whatever, man.
Yeah. Okay.
Whatever.
Okay, Roy can't no longer claim Florida at that point. He can't claim Florida no more.
EJ.
That's his countryman, man.
Whatever, man.
EJ. Let them know that I'm gonna be taking Roy out in 10 years, so they don't have to.
Hey, they might have been trolling when they said that, unless it came out of Roy's mouth. Come on, man. Roy's the. Hey, what happened to you guys, man? You remember everyone's running from America like.
He'll be fighting fans in 10 years, and I take care of all that, man. Just 15 maybe. Just hold tight.
We're going to America. Yeah.
Man, listen. If he said he's leaving America because he's afraid Trump will be president, I can understand. But the reason he's giving now, come on, man.
Yeah, like the only reason he got Russian citizenship is because they'll sanction him to fight.
That and he's doing business or whatever. Still,
come on, man. Come on, Roy. No need to appease Putin that hard.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, listen, he's more friends with the Russian president than he is an American, so why not? They share him love. But to say what he said there, hey, I don't know if he said it. To be honest with you, has anyone seen him saying it, or someone could be just lying?
I hope that's a false report. But if it's not, man, look, Roy Jones will find out about that very right. Roy Jones, his black behind, will find out about that very right-wing element in Russia. Kovalev got those comments. The thing that Kovalev said about Stevenson, that just didn't come from out the air. I'll just leave it at that. So, yeah.
Leave it as that.
Leave it as that. And it just didn't come from nowhere. What Kovalev did with that shirt.
Y'all still got me watching Trout Charlo, man.
Yeah, man.
Y'all still got me watching Trout Charlo, and Charlo's really attempting to take that play in the last 10 seconds. He's working so far.
Mike, where's PSB and where's Gail, man? Where's Gail?
Gail is a little under the weather, so she's not able to make it. She barely has a voice right now. Lara night is hard, so she can barely speak.
Gail, if you're still listening, where's my lottery numbers?
What's that?
Gail, who's the queen of predictions, said she's going to. Conjure up six lucky numbers for me that'll reap with the millions.
Yeah.
Hey, look, man. She picked Krola when most of us didn't, so
yeah,
she deserves all the respect from there. So she said,
I got one. I got the Tyson Fury against the Klitschko. I got Tyson Fury against Klitschko again, though, to let you know. But hey, everyone picks one, and everyone is against them. The good old girl.
She said she picked Krola, and Krola would win easy. So from that alone,
yeah. Hurry up, Gail. I'll PayPal you $1 million. Just hurry up.
I'm sitting Fury Klitschko out, man.
I don't know how Gail pulled that one out. Boy. She got more faith than me. Gus, who do you pick for that one?
I had a Barbosa by a late stoppage, even though I broke it down for Crawler to win it. But
I'm sitting Fury Klitschko 2 out. If you can't watch Lara, how in the world you gonna watch that?
Hey, Michael, man, you gonna preview?
very easily, Scorsese.
What you said? You said very easily. Hold on, Gus. Come on, really, Gus?
Yeah.
Really, Tyson Fury dancing around, throwing one jab, hands behind his back. Klitschko taking the eye exam on Fury's chest. You know, he wasn't punching. He should have just put X, Y, Z and Fury could have asked, which one can you see, Vladimir? It was an eye exam, man. They was not fighting. Please show me the hard left hand that Fury lands. That Lara does not land. He literally almost took Vane's neck off in the beginning of like the 6th or 7th round.
Fury's got more elements to his game plan, man. He can switch hits. Lara.
What element? That element is not on the periodic table. That element is not taught in school. That element is boring.
Tyson Fury to Lara.
Erislandy Lara just got on his Adidas caution, man. He just wants to run.
Lara's a lot more fun.
Man, that's not even a contest right there. Come
on. Come on, bro. Listen, check me out. Okay. Please show me the left hand. Let's compare the left hands. Let's compare the punches, the power punches.
Lara's a better boxer than Tyson Fury. You don't need to compare. That's it.
There we go.
There's no even to argue there. Like, he's a better boxer than Tyson Fury, man. They're not comparisons. Tyson's good.
Gus said he can easily watch Klitschko Fury too, but he cannot watch Lara Vanes.
Because Fury's more exciting. Fury, his personality gets him over, right? But Lara's boring. I feel it. Right, you feel more with Lara. Lara's boring as hell. Get out of here, right?
I can't watch
his press
conference and his boxing fight at the same time. I can't watch
Lara. Look at Lara. Lara and Canelo fight. Look what happened to Lara and Canelo fight.
Okay, I'm gonna advise Lara to show up at his next press conference dressed as Robin or Batman or
Lara's a better boxer than Tyson Fury. Fury's more exciting in terms of his personality, so you could watch it. Lara's boring. Hey, let's change this up.
Let's move on, fella. One more topic, news topic I want to talk about that went down while I was off last week. It looks like we're going to see Kell Brook fight Jesse Vargas. Kell Brook, there's a demand for him to fight someone of note. Looks like that fighter is going to be Jesse Vargas. I'm hearing that the announcement is going to be made next week. Looks like it's going to be either in Manchester, most likely, either late August, early September. You're right, Sheffield. My bad, EJ. Late August, early September. I'll go to you, EJ, as well as you, Gus, from the UK. Thoughts on that fight? Is this the kind of opponent that will satisfy those who want a big fight for Brook?
No, it won't. But listen, he's gonna get knocked out. I'll keep it nice and short and sweet for everyone. To you guys, y'all. It won't satisfy me, right? It won't satisfy me because the guy's coming from 140, now 147. He knocked down Bradley, whatever. Like he's gonna get beaten up. Like if Kell can't take him out, right, and stop Jesse Vargas, bro. Something wrong with Kell, man. Kell's so bigger and strong. This is where Kell needs to shine, and this is a good name, solid name on his resume, other than Sean Porter. Like, so Kell's posted, but I'm not happy. You know what I'm saying? I wanted someone else, to be honest with you. But if you want to start picking up the belts, you might as well start with the WBO. It's one of the weaker belts, so this is where you start. But apparently they're talking Eddie Hearn, man. Eddie Hearn spins a lot of webs, Michael. So I know you're getting the rumors down the grapevine if I haven't, but you know what Eddie Hearn, he was saying Kell Brook and Khan was nearly there. He said, we're really there, we're really close. So what happened to Khan? Where did Khan go? Canelo, next week. You know what I'm saying? So Eddie Hearn, I won't really back anything for Eddie Hearn these days. But if it happens, Kell Brook's gonna knock him out inside 7 rounds. That's what I've got to say. Go ahead, Gus.
Yeah, Mike, you know, I don't know whether it's this this sort of crescendo that the UK currently has with its you know, I wouldn't say dominance, but it's, you know, a lot of the fighters that are capturing a number of belts around, and it is a very, very buoyant period. And I don't know whether an ego has now set into, you know, UK fighters in terms of whether they're willing, to go across the pond and fight over there. It's almost like, I'm a champion, I'll remain in the UK. We've got the, we've got the crowds over here. If fighters want to make a significant amount of money, then they should come over here and fight us. That's fine to a certain extent. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. But the problem with this fight, and I think EJ mentioned, is that Jesse Vargas is not well known in the UK. Certainly, the casual fans do not know of him at all, even though he's a world champion at the moment. And there is still a little bit of skepticism and sort of animosity regarding the opponent. A lot of the people were saying that, look, Kell is now a fully fledged welterweight. We don't know how long he's going to remain at 147, because he's a massive welterweight. He's probably in his peak now. He clearly has the ability to probably beat anybody in the division. And yeah, absolutely. I really wanted the fight between him and Danny Garcia. I thought it was absolutely perfect. Al Heyman and Eddie Hearn have a very, very good relationship. There's no reason why that fight couldn't be made. The fight probably would have to have been in the United States, and Kell shouldn't have a problem with that. He's fought over in the States, I believe, twice. He's won the world title in the States, and he would have received a lucrative enough payday over there. It's not about the money for him. It's about him actually dominating the division now and saying, look, I'm the undefeated IBF champion. I can beat anybody. You guys have been criticizing me for finding my mandatories and one voluntary who they're all castigating and sort of vilifying him. So, I'll come over to your backyard and I'll take all of the belts. And yeah, any of those fights I felt could have been made. Eddie Hearn has a relationship with Top Rank as well, with Rock Nation, everybody. He has no animosity with any of those promoters, from my understanding. So I'm a little bit disappointed. I think a lot of the hardcore boxing fans in the UK are disappointed. But it's a unification fight, fair enough. And then after that, his ability to negotiate will be that much more stronger, because he'll have half of the belts in the division. So I fully expect him to win the fight. Vargas is an improved fighter. I have seen improvements, but I just feel he feels that he's a power puncher now. He does have a little bit of pop in his right hand, but Kell Brook not only has the punching power and the physicality, I think he's certainly improved in his boxing acumen. And I can see Kell pretty much tormenting him and knocking him out.
Jacob, Daniel, Scorsese, your reaction to the negativity that you just heard from EJ and Gus upon hearing that Brook will fight Vargas next?
I'm happy that he's at least moving on from stupid Amir Khan. I think he was chasing that fight. Amir obviously doesn't want to fight him. It would have been a big fight in the UK, or at least I believe it would have been. And you know what? Unify the division. I've been saying it on previous shows. Unify the division, and basically that'll call him out. When he's your mandatory and they still can't make the fight, then he just becomes a coward. I think Brook has a lot of skill. I'm not a big Jesse Vargas believer or fan. I know he won the belt and he beat Ali. Again, we talked about this. It was a long layoff for Ali. He was waiting for that fight, I think, with Bradley, and he just waited and waited. And I think that does bad things to you. But it was a competitive fight until he got caught. But I don't think Vargas is, he might have had some success with that right hand, but I don't think he's a world beater. I think Brook is going to destroy him and then bring on the next guy, whether it's a Danny Garcia or whoever. Bring him on. And I agree. He's fought in the States before. He can come over here and fight again. He had a pretty decent following when I was at that fight at the StubHub, and you know, that proved that, you know, he doesn't have to get a raw deal over here in the States, that, you know, the right man won, and you know, it wouldn't you know, he doesn't have to worry about the decisions. So I'm happy with the fight, but you know, hopefully it leads to bigger and better things.
Daniel and Scorsese.
Number one, I just want to see Jesse Vargas get knocked the fuck out. That's going to be number one. I am going to enjoy watching Jesse Vargas get knocked the fuck out by Kell Brook.
Preach.
Yeah. And second, when it comes to this situation, Gus mentioned, like I said, the relationship with Al Heyman and Eddie Hearn, like why couldn't make the Danny Garcia fight. Gus, I'll let you know the reason why they couldn't make the Danny Garcia fight. His name is Angel Garcia. Danny Garcia's dad, I think, knows in his heart of hearts that his son's is a fraud. He knows
Did Angel Garcia get knocked out by Shannon Briggs?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. But he knows his son's is a fraud. Yeah, he knows his son's is a fraud. He knows in reality he lost to Maria Herrera in Puerto Rico. So and
Peterson.
Yep, and he said it himself. He wants his son to fight Salkas. Kell Brook is not a Salka. He's not gonna touch him. He's gonna do everything possible to avoid that situation. So will Amir Khan. Because Amir Khan chose to possibly be killed with Canelo rather than fight Kell Brook. And he'll probably pick up that mandatory Danny Garcia now in order to avoid Kell Brook again. Now,
well, maybe he'll fight Berto, because Berto is going to fight Garcia.
No, Berto's going to fight Garcia, yeah. That's true. But Khan's going to get a layoff, yeah. At that knockout, you're going to have to take some time off. But the WBA situation is interesting, unfortunately, because, Mike, I know you mentioned the Shane Mosley fight. The winner of that fight is now mandated by the WBA to face the winner of Sean Porter versus Keith Thurman as part of their process to consolidate the belts. So we know they're tied up for a while. So fortunately, this is the best shot Kell Brook has to get a good title holder. He knows he's the A side. He knows he's going to get the most money from it. But until those situations free up, I do see a point where he's not going to have to leave the UK for a bit. Until those situations get cleared up, or unless Danny Garcia decides one day I'm going to fire my dad because he's making me look like a coward. I don't see a point in seeing Kell Brook moving to the UK right now because the US fighters right now are tied up in their own little mess.
I'm hearing he's in, like, Danny Garcia is the main shot for Floyd, so basically not a risk there. I don't even know why he is. Floyd probably just taking it easy at 40 or whatever, but I guess he don't want to risk that. I can't blame him. You know, you done your thing at 40, 47, don't look like it's the place to be. Get your money. But as far as the Kell Brook, Jesse Vargas situation, nobody looked at it from the perspective of Jesse Vargas. Everybody just gave. I'm not gonna say I'm giving them the upper hand, but you know, respect to him for going over there and taking this fight. Not about what Kell is doing or could Kell pick a better opponent or something. We gotta understand Jesse Vargas. If he win this fight, he's the fight of the year. Like he knocked out undefeated Saddam Ali that seemed to be the favorite. I don't know nobody but EJ to pick Jesse Vargas, and I think EJ picked him. Didn't you, EJ?
No, I think he picked Brook. He said Brook should destroy this guy.
I mean Jesse Vargas.
No, he did pick Vargas.
That's right, he did pick Vargas. You're right.
He was about the only person. And like you said, man.
Yeah, I picked Vargas. I picked Vargas to beat Thing at that time against Saddam
Ali.
Yeah.
And Ali had looked somewhat impressive in a few fights. Very fast, good on his feet, big power. I think he's a level under Kell as far as the power, Saddam Ali that is, but I think he moves just as well. Uh, has every shot in the book. Neither one wants to fight on the inside. Jesse Vargas might be able to push the tempo. But my thing is, if he wins the fight, he's the fighter of the year. He gotta be. For me. And I think that's big for him. You know, I'm proud that he's taking that chance. I like that.
Even more so than a potential Kovalev should he beat Andre Ward?
Kovalev. Okay, Kovalev will be beating Ward. Who did he beat? Pascal this year. I would. He would.
And he's
be
got the other fight
unifying
in
the
Russia.
belt. He would be unifying a belt, and I don't think Kovalev is an underdog. Jesse Vargas is going to be underdog in both of these fights. I think Ward Kovalev has to be an even money fight.
Yeah, but the winner is a consensus pound for pound fighter in the world. That's why I mentioned Kovalev.
Yeah. But you know, I just see something about that underdog, man. He's a huge underdog. Like nobody. Jesse Vargas is going to get tossed on the pound for pound list somewhere if he beats Kell Brook, and it should be high. It should be very high. I would give it to Vargas. I mean, he's going to the UK. Kovalev is basically an American at this point. I would go Vargas, man. That underdog, you gotta rock with that. And if he knocked out Ali, you know, if he knocks out Kell Brook, that's, you know, and then possibly he fights again in what, you know, later in the year. He's a potential one. I wouldn't blame anybody for when that goes Sergey versus Ward, because that's a huge fight. But I just think they, you know, who else did Ward beat? Ward beat Barrera. He was the favorite. Kovalev beat Pascal in a rematch. He was the favorite. It's just like the Floyd situation. People gave him fight of the year. I didn't. He won one fight. You know, basically won one good fight. When I thought Badu Jack and James DeGale both had two good wins, and I sort of rocked with them.
Let's move on. One last.
I think you think you bring up good points. If Vargas did knock out Kell Brook, that would be a sensational win, and you can make a case for it. I mean, I see where you're coming from.
Unbelievable.
But I mean, he is taking some risk and he's doing some stuff. So I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, let's talk about one last bit of news here. This kind of took precedent over the fight. Canelo Alvarez decided to give up the WBC middleweight belt. A lot of people look at this. News as going two ways. They either say it's another example of Canelo ducking Triple G because the WBC had mandated a purse bid happen within 2 weeks of this announcement by Canelo. And some people looking at this as Canelo using his advantage of the A side, as him being the A side. Strangely enough, I take it as both. Actually wrote about this on the blog. I can understand why people would say that Canelo is ducking Triple G. And I wouldn't argue against that, especially given how Canelo, after the fight, talk about how we don't F around, and in the post-fight conference, they said, yeah, we'll fight him at 160. But you have to look at the bargaining table here. I mentioned before Canelo was the perceived A side. With that WBC mandated purse bid, under the rules, I think Canelo would get 55% of the split, while Triple G 45%. This move would open up the opportunity for Canelo to make more money, and it's just a way of Golden Boy. And Canelo basically said, we will not be dictated to by anybody. We have the most marketable fighter in boxing right now, given that Floyd is still technically retired, quote unquote. So I see it as both scenarios happening here, really at the same time. Canelo wants to wait for that Triple G. Well, Golden Boy specifically, they want to wait that fight out until Triple G gets a little bit older, and then strike and say we'll take the fight. And they just want to exert their power at the negotiating table. I'll go to EJ here first, and then you follow up, Dan. Your reaction to all this?
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Everything you just said there is right on the money. They want to wait to see Triple G get older. He's not showing any signs of that. But the fact of the matter is, yeah, like he's getting on in age. The opponents are getting softer, like Canelo. But even if Triple G's like 50 or I don't know 45, he'll still beat someone like Canelo. Suppose you need to mute, by the way. Like, I don't hear no feedback yet. But like, yeah, like he'll still beat Canelo. So Canelo, I think Canelo, they don't want to fight him. Got him in the ring, but as I pointed out, when he got him in the ring, when Triple G was there, why didn't you bring Triple G over? Why did you have all that big crowd? You was talking there. Why didn't you just say it to his face? So when I know he brought the ring to me, I was like, yeah, you didn't want it, and I knew it as well. So when they vacate the belt, I mean, he's still the linear champion, by the way. So he's still got the #1 ranking because the linear champion, you have to lose in the ring. So he's got that, but Triple G's got all the belts. Hey, there's only a few guys want to fight Triple G. Chris Eubank said he want the fight. He's got a fight coming up, and the next fight he wants Triple G in September. So hopefully, maybe Eubank comes and knocks off Triple G.
And excuse me, EJ. Rumors I'm hearing that already, Team Eubank Jr. has already made outreach to Triple G about a fight in October.
Yeah, I know. I was there at his signing with Matchroom. I was there. I interviewed him. He said, I said to him, why don't you fight someone like a Curtis Stevenson or Torino Johnson, who's #1 contender? He goes, I don't want none of them fights. I want Triple G in my next fight. I was listening to his dad breaking it down that Triple G is a very good fighter in all aspects, but he's not an exceptional fighter like my son. And he was saying his son has the same chin as his. And if you think about it, if Eubank was in his prime against Triple G, I'd probably favour Eubank to beat Triple G because Eubank could take a punch and he'll keep coming after you. And Triple G hasn't really shown that, so he hasn't really been assessed like that. But the thing is, if Eubank went against Triple G, I mean, what's he gonna lose really? He wants the best, and like he wants Triple G now. He's not trying to wait Triple G older. He wants him now. And everyone in the division want to see chinks in Triple G's armor, and that's what Canelo's doing, and rightly so. Mexican fans, they should do what they've done to Victor Ortiz, throw a piece of boxes at him and everything, man, because the way he's conducting himself is not how Mexican fighters are portrayed, and a lot of blame is going to Oscar De La Hoya for some reason, because Oscar De La Hoya is making the decisions. Maybe not Canelo. Maybe Canelo wants to fight him, but the bottom line is this: he's not, and people are pissed off. Boxing fans are pissed off, and end of the day, that's what it is, man. So hey, we have to wait on this, but Canelo is not looking good for him. For real, it's not looking good. And I tell you what, the only way he can redeem himself, in my opinion, is to fight Manny Pacquiao in September. If he fights Manny Pacquiao in September, I think people forget about the Triple G thing. That's just my opinion.
Daniel, then Gus.
Okay, this is gonna be the parts where I have to vehemently disagree with EJ. You cannot put that old Pacquiao against a 25-year-old Canelo. It's not Oscar. It's not Oscar. You're not going to do that to Pacquiao. Besides, Pacquiao, you're pretty much already seeing the road to May Pac 2 already being paved here. So, with this situation, I looked at the two press releases. Canelo's press release, and particularly Oscar's press release. The way Oscar worded his press release saying now Tom Loeffler can come to the table in good faith. That immediately told me the story. Tom Loeffler and K2 pretty much said, we'll wait this out the purse bid, and Oscar just blatantly just told him, fuck you. Here, we'll take your biggest trump card off the table, because we know damn well you need this fight, and you need this fight now, if you're Golovkin. Because if he doesn't fight now, Canelo right now, he's not going to get a chance with Eubank. Because the WBA is going to mandate the Jacobs fight. And after that, guess what? Golden Boy can then petition the IBF for the Turiano Johnson mandatory. And that ties up Triple G with two mandatories, which he doesn't want because he's been wanting a big money fight for the past 2 years now. That's why the reason he was going after Chavez Jr. is the reason he was going after Froch. Is the reason why he's been talking about the Gale. He knows that's where the money is, and to be the money fight, K2 knows that they have to be the B side. If they're the A side, unfortunately, thanks to the Lemieux fight, it shows that as much as Triple G is beloved among hardcore fans and at the ground level, he's not really that well known among casual fans. This is even with an Apple endorsement and a now Jordan endorsement. So Golden Boy knows they have the power in that table. Now, another thing that you got to think about also is Golden Boy is now actually dealing with a lawsuit involving Canelo. There's a case now in trial in Miami with a small promotion called All Star Boxing that is suing Golden Boy for pretty much the same thing that a lot of big promoters get accused of by the little guys. That Golden Boy came in and swooped their guy while he was still under contract. And it was a big enough lawsuit that it required Oscar, Golden Boy VP Eric Gomez, and both Reynosos to be in the courtroom. And that's a civil trial. That's probably going to last until July. And from what I'm reading, according to the court documents, all All-Star Boxing is probably looking for is punitive damages. They want a money pot. And why make a big fight with Triple G immediately right now when you know that you may have to split the pot of any fight you make right now with this little promotion because of this lawsuit? So there's things to be tied up. Now, as a fan, I can completely understand. I can blatantly understand people calling Canelo a coward because public relations-wise, this is a horrible move. Horrible move.
Should have let that belt go.
But at the end of the day, unfortunately, K2 is stuck in the corner. Unless they're willing to wait until December to fight the Gale, Canelo's the biggest money fight they can get. And Triple G's unfortunately short on time. And their trump card to make the most money that they could with Canelo just got taken away.
Gus Scorsese?
You know, Mike, sufficient time has sort of elapsed and we've all had sort of, it is a sad indictment to the sport, but it is the harsh reality that a fighter who is the most marketable, who does generate the most revenue in terms of pay-per-view now, hence is the A-sider, dictates negotiations, and that pretty much takes precedence. It doesn't even matter anymore that you can have a fighter who may be the undisputed champion, 250 fights, 250 wins, etc. But if he doesn't sell out crowds and he doesn't generate the revenue, then he's not the A-sider. It's a sad indictment to the sport, but that is it now. Now, in terms of Canelo, you've got to read his statements very, very carefully, and I think that loss to Floyd Mayweather has added a lot of psychological impacts, not only on himself, but on Golden Boy as an entity. Canelo is still very, very bitter about the so-called concessions that he had to make to the fight and the loss that he subsequently suffered. And he feels he doesn't want to be manipulated or make these concessions in any future fights. And thus Golden Boy are doing everything in their capacity to protect their commodity. Now, everybody is an expendable asset at the end of the day, and Golden Boy have suffered significant losses in some of their other fighters, losing particularly Lucas Matisse and David Lemieux, and hence they're trying to do everything they can to make sure that Canelo remains that marketable asset for them. Now, what I've been seeing with Canelo is that my first gut instinct was that he would move down to 154, because I've been monitoring his 30-day weights of his last 5 fights, and I've noticed that his weight has been periodically coming down. It's almost a phased sort of alignment. And that suggests to me that he's almost acclimating his body down to 154, which seems quite remarkable given the amount that he rehydrates to. And there is talk that he was even, 180 plus against Amir Khan.
That's dangerous in the long term. Excuse me for interrupting like that, but proceed. That's dangerous in the long term. That will shorten your career if you keep doing that. But proceed.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been talk that that a fight between Alvarez and Liam Smith might be in negotiations for his what has he got, the WBA 154 belt. Now, how realistic that is, I don't know. But now, let's look at it from Gennadi's. Now, does he really want to be the recipient of a belt by this technicality, so to speak? I don't think so. I think the fight will happen. I think Golden Boy realized that a 35, 36-year-old Triple G will be more vulnerable. I don't think so. I think he's a young champion who doesn't have a lot of miles on his clock. I think his power can remain there up until maybe 38, 39. It's not realistic that Gennady will hold all 4 belts in a year's time. Now, what does Canelo do then? He's got nothing else to do. He has to fight him. And I think the fight will happen. My gut instinct, maybe Cinco de Mayo next year.
But wait, Gus, I got a question for you then. So you really think that Billy Joe Saunders will actually step foot in the ring with Triple G?
Yes, I do.
You have a lot more faith in that man than I do.
I think Billy Joe Saunders would give Canelo Alvarez a hell of a fight. I think he could actually outbox him. I think he's got the discipline to do so, but I don't think Billy Joe is. I think he wants to obviously establish a few defenses, but eventually, yeah, I think he'll fancy his chances against Triple G. It may be futile, but yeah, I think he will.
I will ask you, before I go to Scorsese, I will ask you, Gus and EJ, a question here. So, do you think Saunders would go for a Canelo match before a possible rematch with Eubank?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Yep.
No, he's
not Canelo match, but do you think Saunders would go for a Triple G match?
That Saunders is what 78 said about him. He's not about it. He's not serious. That guy doesn't want it. So, he's not. No. He's not even trying to go for the guys with wanting the belt. So, nah.
Basically, EJ, he's bitch made.
There you go. That's right.
He's not even had a defense yet, man. Don't be too harsh on him.
Nah, you need to be. He said the reason why he's not having a defense, he said he was wanking, yeah, and his friend came in the room and he threw his hand and that's why he broke his hand. He was masturbating.
Oh Lord.
That's what he said. He said that on camera. I mean, what kind of dude is that? You know what I mean?
That should have came with some trigger warning.
I mean, that was terrible, man. Like the dude
that should have been trigger warning before you make that. Oh,
my bad. That guy is an embarrassment as a champion. The way he conducts himself, like he fights easy opponents. I mean, I'm not saying he's bad for boxing. He's a very good boxer, but he's not. Listen, I don't know what to say, man. All I know is this: yeah, you want the guys to make the good fights. Do not look at Billy Joe Saunders for that. That's what I'm saying.
Scorsese and then Jacob.
I'm gonna make this
because I know you like your attitude is like F the belts anyway. So
I'm gonna make this less about Canelo and more about Triple G. Canelo just has options. Canelo do whatever, man. He got so many opponents, so many directions, possibilities. Anybody from 54 will make 55 to fight him. And that division's legit, hell, a Trout rematch could be a legit fight. A Lara, shit, he got options. Triple G, though, we just said we don't know what Billy gonna do. We don't know. And when I think he was fighting a guy called Bursack, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck for me knowing who that is in 2 more months. What Triple G would, if I'm him, I beg the WBA. I'm taking a whole nother route here. Beg the WBA to let me go fight for their 168-pound title versus Felix Stein. I begged them. The Badu Jack versus the Gale fight comes off. That winner gets 2 belts. I find a way to get that person in the ring. I try my best to get them in the ring. And hopefully the Gale wins that fight. And what you do the whole time, if you look for a big fight, this is the way you do it. When I beat the Gale, Carl Fratch, and I'm letting you know this publicly, when I beat the Gale, I want you. Come on, you know I want you. I'll come to the UK to beat the Gale, then I'll come back to beat you too. That's your big fight right there, possibly. It ain't no more far-fetched than what you're doing at 160. Because Daniel just broke it down, buddy. You got Terriano Johnson problems. Golden Boy playing you. This dude probably faked the injury just because he's, and Gus said it, expendable. You know, they talk back to back, and they just said what is already on my mind. So if I'm Triple G, I'm 68. I'm looking for one of those titles. I mean, IBF is James, WBC. The only one you can go up if you're the champion in the division. Say, hey, I want to fight that champion. Can you mandate that for me? The WBA is not the organization that didn't want to force mandatories or be friendly for mandatories. That was the WBO. You ain't got to worry about them. WBA might help you. Might show you some love. You've been a champ for about how many years now? Try it. And the guy who just won the belt, he robbed the belt. I'm sure he's not in their good graces. Try it. Go get that title and get you 2 more if you beat the Gale. And then that's a great fight. The Gale Jack winner, that's a great fight for you. You beat that person. Now you say, Carl Froch, I am here, buddy. I'm here. Or possibly you say, Andre Ward, you want to make that trip back down to 68 after you beat Kovalev? What you want to do? Meet in the middle? What? That's all I can do for the guy, man. I'm it's sad that he's gonna keep on fighting at 160 versus expendable people. Sad that that's what's gonna happen.
Interesting view there. Jacob, your thoughts on all this?
Well, first of all, I'm naming this Canelo Gate, and I wrote an article about it, and I shared it with you guys. So I thank the guys that did read it. There's a lot of things going on here. I mean, I think there's blame to go around on all sides. Blame for the WBC for not, doing these stupid catchweight fights for the belt and not making the mandatories happen, with Cotto and then before that. Because, I mean, Canelo, I don't think that he's scared of Triple G, but Golden Boy definitely is. And that's all they have in their cupboard. I mean, they don't have a plethora of fighters. They have Canelo, and his whole company's riding on that. So of course he's going to try to protect them and do that advantage. And I hear a lot of things about the A side. Yes, I agree. Canelo is the A side as far as money and popularity, but as far as accomplishments at 160, if you want to talk about who's the A side, it's Triple G. He has 2 of the belts, now 3 of the belts. He's done more at 160. Canelo hasn't, fought or hasn't weighed in at 160. Let's just say that he's fought over at light heavyweight. And you know what? The whole thing with Oscar and Canelo is that I could see a potential thing where Canelo, who has taken fights before that Oscar didn't want him to take, if you get called a coward enough times, that could wear on you. And I could see a possible rift between Golden Boy and Canelo where he keeps on getting called out, and he's telling Oscar, make this fight. And, I don't know, could cause a rift, and, he might be looking for another promotion company or even his own promotion company.
Hey,
Jake, I know he has one.
Jake, can I ask you a question? Now, if he's getting called a coward while he's fighting much better opponents, like say if he fights Lara and Charlo, you think the word coward really going to be, coming out of people's mouth or bothering him if it does come out their mouth?
I think I think coward affects people different ways. Some people it rolls off of them, but if you don't have thick skin and and you have your own people going against you, I think sometimes that can wear on you. I mean, I don't know what kind of person Canelo is yet. I don't know how this is going to go down, but if they don't make that fight, he's definitely going to hear a lot of that. Like, he's a chicken, he's running. I mean, you see someone like Stevenson, it don't faze him. You know, he's been called chicken, whatever. He just keeps on going. But maybe at Canelo, it doesn't. And one more point I wanted to make is that, you know what, Canelo as a Mexican fighter hasn't, in my opinion, had to earn the fans. I mean, as a Mexican fighter, he has already that country and basically all the, you know, American Mexicans in the U.S., he has them all on his side, you know, from the get-go. You know, once he's winning and he's doing these fights, Triple G, who comes from a little country, has had to build that fan base. And, you know, so to me, there's a little bit of, you know, bias there in the sense that, you know, a lot of people will side with Canelo because of the Mexican heritage and stuff. And, you know, and it happens. You know, you go to a fight, they might not know who the Mexican fighter is, but if he's fighting some other guy from any other country, they're going to cheer for the Mexican guy.
That's
so,
a superb
I mean,
point.
There's a lot of things going on here. Hopefully, you know, Triple G hasn't fought. I mean, he's stood by his word so far. He wants the belts. That's his goal. He hasn't taken. I know that fights have been talked about at 168 and all these other catchweight fights, but the fact of the matter is he hasn't fought any of those fights. He's fought his mandatories. He's trying to get these other fights. You know, the sanctioning bodies need to do their job. Tom Lawfer's got to do his job and make sure not to take any stupid step-aside money. That's really their goal. And then, you know, and just, you know, once he unifies the belts, then he can move on to 168 and try to do something great there.
Okay, Jacob, I want to throw this scenario at you then. If Oscar really wants to be a dick and mandates and petitions the IBF to get Toriano Johnson his mandatory back because he's still the #1 ranked guy by the IBF, and at the same time then goes the Canelo fight, Tom Loeffler's going to go for the Canelo fight, which means Triple G will be stripped of the IBF belt.
But we don't know that, though. You're all assuming that he's going to take that fight because of the money, but maybe Golovkin says, no, I want my belts. Canelo, I have the WBC belt. I don't need Canelo anymore. I have the WBC belt. I'm one belt away from doing that. Let me do my mandatory, because another thing about Golovkin, he fights often. He doesn't do this bullshit where he fights once a year or twice a year. He fights often. So he can, and technically in 6 months, he can defend his IBF belt and his WBA belt against Jacobs.
And isn't the onus here more towards Canelo, particularly from casual, semi-hardcore perspective, because the only fight really at that weight that folks care about to a lot of folks, Canelo Triple G.
Exactly.
It's Canelo that has the perception of ducking.
Yeah.
Even if he fights these other guys, they're going to ask him, when are you going to fight Triple G? When are you going to try to fight Triple G? And people have receipts. Let me put it that way. People have receipts. And don't think they won't throw that back in his face, what he said in reaction to the Golovkin question after the fight with Amir Khan. Don't think they won't throw it back in his face, how they said that they will fight him at 160. So the 155 stuff, that's out the window. They can't use that anymore. So really, at the end of the day, I hear your point, Scorsese, but to EJ's point, the folks want that fight with Triple G, and I understand the negotiation part, and it's valid. But to EJ's point, at the end of the day, they want that fight with Triple G, and to a lot of people, and until he gets in the ring, he's kind of running.
Exactly.
Today, since we on the post-fight interview quote, he also said, "I don't fuck around," and we know. And Daniel made a great point that somebody else don't fuck around, and
Scorsese, sound like you're underwater.
And that's the
Scorsese, sound like you're underwater, bro. Sound like you're underwater. So I don't know.
No. I got what Scorsese said. That's the truth. That's the reason why he specifically pointed out the IBF. Because out of all the sanctioning bodies, the IBF actually pays attention to their rules better than others when it comes to mandatories.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like, Oscar has that in his back pocket. He can easily just tell Loeffler, I'm going to if you don't want this fight now at this percentage that I'm giving you, I'm gonna strip you of the IBF belt. I'm gonna.
Yeah, but
This is very dirty game. This is dirty
But
game.
do you think that he won't fight Toriano Johnson?
If you dangle the Canelo fight in front of him,
no.
And considering the fact that, like I said, he's been trying to get these big money fights for 2 years, he's gonna try to go for the Canelo fight. Unless Canelo fully, completely implodes and just stays at 154, then I would say that's the case. But this is the reason why I'm saying this fight's still happening to me in September. They know the deal, and I think Golden Boy has to have measured the amount of backlash they've gotten from this.
I don't know about that September date because Loeffler already said they're going to fight in September. I don't care if it's not Canelo. We're going to fight in September regardless.
Which is why I said this fight's going to happen in September anyway.
Daniel, is the rule state that you – so if you say, I'm going to defend my IBF mandatory, do you get a certain amount of months to do it? So if he was able to fight 2 fights within 6 months, but still defend his IBF.
It's your next fight. They want it to be your next fight.
No. Jacob, just look at what happened to Tyson Fury. Kathy do a petition to have Glasgow that his mandatory honored, and they did it in a minute, knowing full well that the most money was still with the Klitschko rematch.
Exactly.
When it comes to the mandatory situation, the IBF doesn't play, and that's why I say Oscar has that in his back pocket. Oscar's not a dummy.
Unless it's a unification.
Unless it's a unification. Now,
so
like I said,
the Jacob situation.
But they did for Charles Martin.
WBA regular title versus the whatever the other title is.
If the Canelo fight doesn't happen in September, that's what the fight is going to happen. That's the way it is, because that's going to happen first, because the WBA is going to mandate it immediately. So that'll be first, and then it's going to be the Toriano Johnson fight.
But does that count as a unification fight?
No. Yeah, he could get stripped that way too. If he could get stripped fighting other mandatories for other belts, that shit can happen too. It's all messed up.
Yeah, to Gus' earlier point, this all speaks to the seedy night side of the sport, which nobody likes, and it just really gets ultimately on your nerves. It stalls everything. It prevents fight. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it prevents fights that we want to see, and that needs to, and that should happen. And it just leads to folks like us having these subtle, nuanced, nerdy conversations that should be had. But let's be honest. To a lot of folks, it's like, fuck all this. When the fight gonna happen? Let's see it in the ring.
Hey, Michael. Michael, he did it to himself by taking step-aside money. He could have been and had the WBC belt around his waist. He should have just took his belt. Tom tells us now, looking at it in hindsight, bro, you should have just took your belt unless you like free money. But you say you like your belts more. You should have just took your damn belts. Now, if he starts getting stripped, he did a lot of this shit to himself. He in a corner, man. They can just knock his king over. I don't know how to play chess, but I know it's certain pieces that they just gonna knock off his damn board, man.
Basically, if you're gonna play chess, I think Oscar just took away I could say the rook.
Yeah, the rook.
He took the rook away from Loafer. And unfortunately, he has it in check with the queen still in play.
Right.
Step aside money. Keyword, step aside money.
That's just the thing. Like I said. Say, Jacob?
I was going to say, there's also a couple things, too. There's the fighter and there's the manager. The manager is always going to, and just like the trainer, too, like Abel Sanchez, they're going to say what they say, and, they're also going to try to get money, right? The manager's trying to get the most money, but maybe that's not what Golovkin wants. Maybe his goal is do this, and, maybe he got bad advice to say, yeah, take the step-aside money. We're going to get this fight. The WBC is going to mandate it, and then everything, all this stuff cascaded down. So, I don't know. I mean, I sometimes when these managers or trainers are speaking for their fighters, especially someone like Triple G who has, English isn't his first language, I think a lot of stuff can be misconstrued on what his actual intentions are. So, you guys say that he's looking for a big money fight. I think his manager's looking for a big money fight because he wants to get paid. He's getting a piece of that. So, if Triple G's actual intentions are to get the belts and unify, then maybe he's not going to take this money.
Well, he's taken the money before, and this is the whole weird situation. If we're going to put the blame, and it's like it has to be on both sides. Like I said, Scorsese made a great point. Like if Triple G was really all about the belts, he should have forced Sergio Martinez to fight him, or forced Miguel Cotto to fight him. At the end of the day, also, Canelo could have easily just said, "I don't want to fight for the middleweight title. I'll just fight Miguel Cotto, because we're both big enough where we don't need a belt for this fight to mean something," and just rolled on through. Hell, this fight could have happened anyway if it wasn't for Austin Trout. So that's the situation that unfortunately they have it going in. Golden Boy chose to fight for the middleweight title, and they put themselves in this little bit of a dilemma where now the next opponent is Triple G. But I think this is also something that Oscar takes comfortable. Whoever fights Floyd, look at the history of a lot of people that fight Floyd, and when they had momentum, whether it was Victor Ortiz, Carlos Vandermeer, Diego Corrales. Once you fight Floyd and he beats you, your momentum kind of stops.
Damn, that's a good point.
And Canelo has been, to this day, like I said, among young fighters, I'm not counting Pacquiao on this, among young fighters, the only guy that has been able to weather a Mayweather loss and have become bigger because of it, or in spite of it.
It's a good point.
I think that has a lot to do with the Mexican backing, though. If he was a kid from, I don't know, Montana, I don't think his momentum would have stopped.
Exactly.
Well, then what's the excuse for Victor Ortiz? Other than the fact that
Canelo earned that.
Victor
Canelo
Ortiz
earned
quits.
Yeah, he did.
Victor Ortiz quits.
Canelo fought in Mexico and went. He beat asses in a. And if you hear about Mexican sparring, Mexican gyms, they are tough. He kingpinned that shit, and he earned that. Like a lot of Mexican fighters, Vasquez, who he fought on the way up. Vasquez is about to fight in 2 days, I think. Nobody gives a shit. He's Mexican.
Yeah, but Scorsese, the irony is that Canelo is actually castigated because he fights in an un-Mexican style, whereas his adversary Gennady Golovkin is perceived more as the Mexican fighter.
Mm-hmm.
That's true, but that's a trend that's actually being set by, interestingly enough, Juan Manuel Marquez. Juan Manuel Marquez has used the trend of becoming a better counterpuncher.
Yeah. To
win fights, and that's the mold that Canelo is going in. Yes, it's not the mold of Julio Cesar Chavez. It's not the mold of Marco Antonio Barrera.
The quote-unquote Mexican style that Triple G is using, that has evolved over the last 20 years.
Exactly. It's no longer Marco Antonio Barrera and Eric Morales styles anymore.
And the Barrera is the ultimate example of that. Because up until Junior Jones, he was this come-forward fighter, focusing on the body, trying to knock your head off. Once Junior Jones knocked him out, stopped him, and beat him in the rematch, you could just see in steps, in increment steps, it began to change over and over and over, slowly but surely, until the Hamed fight. Then, bam! He put it all out there, and you saw how he just broke down Hamed, didn't go forward, used the jab, boxed the shit out of Hamed. Hamed didn't know what to do that night. And you saw it coming on and on and on until he just ran into that buzzsaw named Manny Pacquiao.
Exactly.
I agree with you, but I also don't think that Barrera. I mean, if he was, if he had to go toe to toe, he would resort back to that also.
But they all do.
He did develop his style, like you said, and become a little bit more strategic and using different tools. But I mean, he was still a Mexican brawler at heart. We're kind of like what's that guy? I can't remember his name, but you know, they get drawn back into that style to their old ways.
But that's what most fighters do, regardless of where they're from. What I'm saying is the former quote unquote traditional Mexican style that was first in the mind. That's not being taught now down there.
It's not, but that's the thing that makes Triple G so popular on the ground level. It's the nostalgia of the old Mexican style. Just come forward, just bulldoze everybody. And that's one of the things that makes the Canelo rematch intriguing. It's pretty much a catharsis. You have old Mexican style versus new Mexican style. Which one wins?
I don't think Canelo's a master of the new Mexican style yet, though.
He's a mixture of the two.
Mm-hmm. And that's basically what we have at play. And like I said, Canelo has survived the Floyd loss. And I think hopefully Golden Boy can take that into notion that he can survive a Triple G loss.
Oh, that's not the same thing.
If he gets knocked out badly, I think that does a lot.
It depends. It depends, because what if it goes to decision? What if they take it to decision?
I agree. If it goes to decision, then yes, he survives. But I think it could be a big step backwards. If he gets knocked out like badly, like kind of how Khan did, I think that does a bad thing for Golden Boy.
That's a potential $100 million what if gamble. Like Canelo could be worth hundreds of millions if it goes to the decision. That gamble right there, like that's a big if. That's the best if in the world right now.
It's a reason why we want to see the fight. It's that if. And let's face it. Let's face Ashley with Kuz and the Gander here. We're actually a little bit over a year removed from Maypac. We've reached a point, both as fans, casual fans, and among hardcore fans, that we're just not going to wait anymore. We don't want to wait anymore because it gave us 5 years and it gave us what happened last year.
Daniel, I wanna express this point right here. Canelo's never been a 160-pound champ. He's never been at the weight. It's like no plans, no disputing that. He's a champion of circumstance. No, the same people that's telling me that Lara Triple G shouldn't be a priority is telling me that a 155-pound fighter, 1 pound higher than the 154-pound fighter, who's, as a recent, just fought the better competition, I would say, in Vanes Martirosiyan. They're not. Why are people not pushing it? Money should matter to us as fans, like them making a big deal of it. Like we should want to see that. So why is that fight not getting the same kind of push when those guys showed to be even fighters in their fight? And I'm just not feeling that right there. Like Canelo's basically said, hey, move up from, hate to say it, 155, but move up and take your first challenge from Triple G. You're the only person in this division that could do that, but we don't even know if you're the best person in this division yet. And a lot of junior middleweights have beat Miguel Cotto, and they probably would have did it a little better than Canelo done it.
Trout did it actually superbly.
Yeah, and nobody's pushing. So I mean, we're basically being told follow the money as fans and push for only money for. I refuse. I'm following. I know what could be good fights. What I could give Triple G credit for. What I could give the other guy credit for. Not just Canelo. It shouldn't be just on him. That belt is bull crap. And finally is with a solid owner at 60 since Sergio, knee blew out or whatever.
You're right. The problem is a lot of folks don't see it that way. Perception, brother. And the perception is
change it for them. I'm trying to help
and the perception is that Canelo and Triple G are the top 2 middleweights in the world, and they want to see them in the ring because right now it's probably the biggest money fight in the sport. That's what people see. They don't really care that much about Danny Jacobs. They don't care that much about Andrade or the Charlo brothers or Martirosiyan or Lara or Jacobs or Eubank or Billy Joe Saunders. They care about Canelo, Triple G, point blank period.
Oh, and one final point actually. Jacob is completely in the right when he said that if this was a fair system, Triple G would legitimately just be the A side because he has the belts. He has more belts. If in a fair system,
And he has
would be
defenses at 160.
yeah, in a fair system, he would be the one calling the shots. Unfortunately, the way his career rolled, honestly, if Triple G came into the U.S. probably 2 years earlier, he probably would have had a lot more pull than what he does now. But that's unfortunate. That's a side effect of the business. It's what you do make.
I mean,
That's not more important.
the sad thing is that Andy Lee, who had the belt, was going to fight Triple G. And I believe that even if he would have beat Bullet Joe Saunders, he would have fought Triple G. And then it would have been basically, that would have been one of the belts, and then the WBC thing, and then it's done.
You would have had everything now,
Yeah, he would have had everything, yeah.
Let's start shutting stuff down. Before we sign off, anybody want to talk this Shea Mosley bout?
Triple step aside money.
No. Like,
okay. And
Mosley's gonna get destroyed.
I got one. They should both opponents should take step aside money.
Gus, did you just say Mosley's gonna get destroyed?
Yeah.
Like knockout destroyed or just decision destroyed?
People are underestimating this Russian guy, but he can fight.
I think if he can survive the early rounds, he's got a shot to win for sure. Mosley isn't the fighter he was, and he fades.
Yeah, this is the only thing to take away from that. The winner of this gets a Showtime date because of the WBA, so we might see Shea Mosley back on Showtime.
It's a joke, isn't it?
Yes, we know it's a joke. That's the sad part.
It's like the last Showtime card. You had 354 champions on one bill. I mean, what does that say about the promotion? You shouldn't really have that. And the sad thing is that none of the free fighters are ever going to fight each other.
I have to disagree, guys. I love that. I absolutely love that card because it was quality. It was quality.
I understand Gus's point though. Like if they're prominently billed, they should headline their own events.
They should be headlining their own cards. They should not be on the same bill. Absolutely not.
Yeah, but on one of them we have to be fair.
And fighting each other.
Yeah,
exactly.
One of them we have to be fair because one of them was for a vacant belt, so it wasn't an actual champion situation.
And Lee part 2.
I think you take it away from the competitiveness of the fight. Trump could have easily upset the apple cart, and then we're talking unification. He damn near did upset it in some opinion. Then we're talking unification on the same. We just saw that build off the same card. And then if if the Jackson kid wins, anyone would have fought him if he would have took the fight. So
we didn't even talk about that fight, did we?
Yeah, can you actually believe Jermell Charlo had the audacity to say that if Julian the Hulk Jackson was his opponent, the outcome would have been the same? Now, Jermell, I don't know if you're listening to this podcast. I sincerely hope you are. if you was facing Julian and you took even a quarter of the punches that his son was able to land, your brother would have read you your last rites.
Julian could have moved that way? You think Julian could have used his legs that way?
He would have annihilated. He would have beaten both brothers in the ring simultaneously.
Scorsese, he means that Julian Jackson would have just bulldozed Charlo.
Scorsese, you did see the Harold Graham fight on YouTube. Only took one shot.
I get that. but he also had some malfunctions about the neck.
That's true.
But Terry Norris, it only took one shot.
Like retro nostalgia. We can't have a retro nostalgia going on.
I'm just saying, with Terry Norris, it only took one shot. Terry Norris didn't exactly make a mistake when
Sugar Ray Leonard didn't want anything to do with him. He said he'd fight the winner out of Norris and Julian Jackson. Jackson won, but what did he do? He fought Norris, man.
Hey, he's a fighter. You gotta believe that, You gotta believe that.
Didn't want nothing to do with him.
And I think we're going to start shutting this show down on that note. This has been really, really long episode. I didn't realize. Ooh, really, really long. I'll just go around the hangout here. I want to thank Francis and Joe from 4Boxing who joined us early on the show. EJ Boxing Live, who joined us early on the show, both had to dip out. You can check out Francis and Joe from 4Boxing. Just go to 4boxingnews.com, at 4boxingnews on Twitter. EJ Boxing Live, you can catch him all over the YTBC. Just look for EJ Boxing Live there. EJ Boxing Live on Twitter. He's all over. Facebook page is very, very popular there as well. I'll go around the hangout here, starting with Jacob. Jacob Rivera, Jab Hook Boxing, for folks who want to talk boxing or anything else. Let the folks know where they can check you out.
Yeah, I could be found on Twitter at JRATM23. Yeah, like you said, Jab Hook Boxing. I'm going to be at that Vargas Salido fight, so I hope, Daniel, I don't know if you're going to make it, but I hope to see you there, brother. And I just wanted to say to the rest of the panel, Gus, the newer members, I really enjoy what you guys are doing. I was on vacation a couple weeks ago, and I heard Gus come on, from introduced by EJ and Scorsese and stuff. I really hope you guys keep on calling in to this. I really enjoy talking to you guys. I think you guys know your stuff and interesting points, and of course Daniel and Michael always do a good job in for Boxing News. So I just wanted to give a shout out to you guys. I really appreciate it.
I also want to thank PSB Sports for joining us early on the show. He dipped out as well. If you want to follow him, just check him out on Twitter. PSB Sports. That's at PAVST 4R on Twitter. So you can check him out. Excellent channel, YouTube channel. Excellent boxing Twitter channel as well. So if you want to check him out, again, PSB Sports. Daniel Carpio from the Inscriber, for folks who want to talk boxing, NBA, and whatever, let them know where they can check you out.
All right, so you can find me on Twitter at Ruckus99. Like I said, I do write for the Inscriber magazine, and like I said, we'll hopefully be picking it up here with more of they coming up. Like I said, I'll just give a shout out to my co-host Jordan Francis for Boxing News. We do our own podcast on Sunday. Like I said, we do basically cover the news and look over the big fights. And yeah, we got a whopper coming up, thanks to June 4th. And yeah, I'm gonna try to make it, Jacob. I'm really gonna try.
I hope so, man. I hope so.
Scorsese, for folks who want to talk boxing or anything else, let the folks know where they find.
Hey, first, Daniel, is that June 4th that you talking about Bartholomew fight?
Say again?
Are you talking about Bartholomew fight June 4th?
No, Vargas Salido, man.
Okay, yeah, I'm off. You're right. I think one is Friday, one Saturday. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the Bartholomew fight's Friday.
Yeah, I'll check on that. Oh yeah, one thing with Gus, we gotta take our Fury Lara debate. I guess the EJ Boxing Live maybe. We gotta do that. But yeah, every time I get asked to give my information, I always have to go look on Twitter because I'm just on my own handle. But like I said, if you want to talk boxing, I talk it any day. I do it any day. Twitter at MiloPlaceFriend, and I'm there for you. That's all I got.
And what Scorsese's talking about a lot of times, EJ Boxing Live, one of the things that makes his channel, YouTube channel especially, so dope is that he will host live debates, live or recorded debates between folks within the YTBC. So yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that. Game of friendly competitive banter between Scorsese and Gus. And then speaking of Gus, for folks who want to talk boxing with you or anything else, let the folks know where they can find you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. First of all, thank you to yourself for the invitation on the show, Pound for Pound Boxing Report. It's a fantastic show.
Thank you.
Like the format, and you're doing a great job. And I went back and I actually reviewed sort of all 120 sort of episodes. So yeah, let's hope it continues to grow because it's a fantastic format. Great panelists, and if folks want to interact with myself, you can hook me up on Skype. I'm at Gus Corruption in Boxing. You can catch me on Google, talking boxing, and I do a lot of music journalism as well. reviewing for sort of Beatports and Juno Records, as well as a lot of labels, and you can catch me there. Covert Operative is my show.
And for folks who are wondering, where's Gail? Where's Gail? Where's Gail? Well, Gail fought with all the community digital news. She's been under the weather. She's been dealing with bronchitis for the past really 10 days or so. So her voice couldn't allow her to be on the show tonight. So hopefully we can have her back. Her voice is in well enough shape so she can be back next week. Speaking of next week, we may do a recap of Mosley's bout, given Gus's prediction. You also mentioned Miguel Vasquez. He's fighting that same night, fighting in San Antonio, I think against Eric Bone. We may talk about that. I didn't talk about Donnie Nietes, but he's fighting on the weekend as well. We may talk about his fight. He's defending his title in Philippines. I know Ricky Burns is fighting as well. We may talk a little bit about that. But the main crux of next week's show will be a preview. We will preview Rances Bartholomew fighting Ricky Bay June 3rd on Spike. And on the 4th, fight that got us hardcore fans drooling, Francisco Vargas, Orlando Salido on HBO. We will talk about that. Full in-depth preview, which should be a just outright bloodbath. So we will preview those bouts and anything else boxing-wise that's going to be happening in the interim. So for Francis and Joe, for boxing, for PSB Sports, for EJ Boxing Live, for Gus, Jacob Rivera, Daniel Carpio, Scorsese, I am your host, Michael. This has been another episode of Pound for Pound Box Report. Everybody have a good evening, good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right.